Welcome back to another episode of Bulletproof Mindset, your go-to health, fitness and entertainment podcast. Today's episode is for all you Hyroxers competing in the 2024 season. And for today's episode, I welcome back Shona McGee, aka Miss Hyrox herself, to share some of her favourite tips going into this 2024 season. Now, I had a lot of fun recording this episode, so I think all in, it was about 6 tips that we share that you can implement to dominate the new season. Now, if you haven't heard the first episode we did with Shona where we dove into her story, this was a great episode. I'm going to leave the link for that in the show notes or wherever you're watching or listening to this. And of course, if you're looking to follow Shona, connect with her on social media, I'm going to leave a link to all of that below. She said she had a couple of spaces for you guys who are potentially looking to work with her online, so go check that out. Hopefully there's still spaces left. And lastly, if you're new around here, look, need a wee favour from you. If you want to support the show, the best way you can do it is leaving a little 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcast or wherever you choose to listen to this. If you're watching over on YouTube, consider subscribing, but if you could like the video and comment, that is the best way to support the show and get more exposure to other people. So if you want to do that, then that would be cool. But without further ado, enjoy today's episode and I'll see you guys on the next one. Right, so back by popular demand. Good to have you back. So what have you been up to since last time?
So many things have happened since last time.
You're an actual Hyrox athlete now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, an ambassador.
Well, we knew you were a Hyrox athlete
Hyrox athlete, ambassador. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So just got an email being like, "Hi, we want you to be an ambassador." I was like, "Thanks very much."
Do you have to apply for anything?
So people can apply for it.
Right.
I didn't actually know that until I went to like the ambassador day in London. So that was like a couple of weekends ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, "We've had loads of applications for like Hyrox ambassador for this year, but we actually picked yours out specifically."
Love it. Nice.
Fast, because I actually didn't know that you could, like, that was even a thing.
You're just creating content.
I know, it's just like, yeah. But it's good to be recognised for something that you're like I'm like really passionate about, and
Going for it.
I think it shows on my page definitely.
Yeah. So what else have you been up to since last time? What's new?
Went out to France for the World Championships. That was cool.
Didn't you tie the shoes too tight this time?
No, didn't. Don't think I competed in London before I came here. So London was after that with Lisa. Not mixed, doubles female. That's where we qualified for the Worlds.
Were you happy then with what you've done on that one? Cause
Yeah,
I think that was the first Hyrox, if I remember correctly, that you had a pretty good training structure for, and something that you were like, right.
Yeah, so we were really confident going into that because like we knew that we were both fast. We knew that we worked well together training and stuff like that, and like we get on really well.
Yeah.
And it was just really good to run a race with one of my clients as well. Like obviously she's my friend as well, but to run a race with one of my clients was just really, really good.
Cool.
It was really hot in London though. Like we had like a glass roof. Oh, it was so hot.
It must have been like a greenhouse.
It was literally a greenhouse, and I was like, oh my god. But yeah, off the back of that, so we actually came 7th. In our age, 5th or 7th in our age category.
Amazing.
Was it? We just kind of missed out on the podium. We were like, okay. But it was fine.
What was it in times wise? Because that's always the kicker.
We got 105.
Right.
105,
Nice.
yeah. Was it 105? Yeah, I think it was 105 because in the Worlds we got 110.
Oh no, I mean time wise of the difference between podium. Is it like?
Oh, it was like a minute.
Less than 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be.
I'm like, cool.
Yeah, it's like the frustration of,
I know.
because you can always pick point apart with the race that you're
Well,
like.
actually, we looked back at the race and I was like, do you know what? There's actually no part.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We were both like, do you know what? There's no part of that that I felt like you could have pushed more, I could have pushed more. Like, I think we put everything into it that we could have. So we were still really happy with what we got out of it. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there any sort of learnings from London that you were like, right, this is what I'm going to improve on next time? I've got a couple of questions, but obviously the whole point of this episode where we'll dive into some tips and that going into the next season, 24-25, obviously for the wall balls. These guys have to do 100 wall balls and all that now. How are you feeling about that?
Came out. I'm actually not too worried about it because I've been doing 100 with I've been doing 100. I've been doing 100 with the mixed doubles and stuff like that. And for the female doubles in Nice, we did 100. But doing it yourself is obviously a lot different.
Yeah.
I think it's just a mindset thing. Like, see, when you're already in the pain cave, like, only 25
what's another
reps,
25
like, I know,
reps,
like, just keep going. Says me in Glasgow who took the strop, but it's only another 25 reps. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Good. Do you think it's a good thing then that Vico'd the times out?
Yeah, because I actually never knew why they dropped, like, the reps.
I understand weight, but I never understood physically changing the race.
Yeah, I don't know why it was ever 75 and 100 reps. But I'm glad it's kind of the same now. They've probably done it because somebody's probably been like, that's not fair, why changing females and males, discrimination or whatever, I don't know.
What do you think of all
People
that?
chat about this day. What do I think about discrimination? In sport, I think things should be equal, but at the same time, female structure of the body and male structure of the body is different. So for things like reps of that, then no, just everybody do 100. But and stuff like the Olympics, when there was that male thing going on of this guy competing as a woman or something like that.
Did you know much about it? So I done an episode on it.
So I seen it had came out, and I done a bit of research on it after that, and it turns out that he was actually born a female, but she was born a female, but they had more an extra chromosome, the male chromosome in them or whatever. So then she's got the right to compete as a female. What I don't agree with is males change into females and then being allowed to compete in a female category, because specifically your hips are designed differently. So especially for like sprinting and stuff like that, you're at an advantage straight away. I think in sport, doesn't matter what you want to do. If you want to change to a female, fine. If you want to change to a male, fine. I don't have any issue with that. But if you're competing in sport, what I think you should have to disclose your gender birth, and that is the category that you compete in. So if you're a female now and you were born as a male, you still need to compete in the male category. I think that just makes it like fair or easy for everyone. I don't know if fair is the right word, but easy. Just to
it's like
sport.
clean cut.
Yeah,
clean cut.
And that's it. And it's no, oh, but this and that. It's like, well, you were born a male, so you're going to compete in the male category, or you're born a female, so that's what you're going to do. Such a touchy subject, because everyone has different views and opinions of it, and you can speak about obviously your own views and opinions, but someone will obviously have something else to say off the back
when you
of it.
get into genetics, it's like, right, okay, should you have a category where everyone's your height? Because you're at a disadvantage in Hyrox.
I know.
So how deep do we go with this subject? It's like, I podiumed in a class of 3 people because there was only 3 of us at the same height, weight, upbringings.
That's a lot of chat about that in like the bodybuilding side of things, because sometimes you can go into a show and you can see there's only 3 people or 2 people on stage, and it's like, and then you see them on social media and like, oh, I came 3rd, and I'm like, well, you came last.
Aye. That's me. I done a bodybuilding show and I got bronze, and it didn't feel the same as like, yeah, you know, it's cool doing the experience of my first show and that. It's like, but coming 3rd, getting bronze, like I came last in my category, and I know so many people that played up to that.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, when that happened, this happened, I'm talking 10 years ago. Shit, I'm getting old. 10 years ago, this roughly. No, it was about 8 years ago. And I remember going, yeah, I got 3rd, and I was like, but it was in a class of 3 people, so you know. But
see, to be fair, you still put the work in. You still deserve to be there. So like, good. But I think the difference
folk
with
are
this,
like bronze, they've got it in their bio and all that. Come on.
But I think the difference with this like Hyrox thing is there's so many people competing that if you do get to that level, like, that is good, because like, fucking hell, there's so many people competing in this.
Oh, I know. So we'll come on to like what your goals and stuff are for like the next season, but let's talk about the Worlds then, because did you think you would get to the Worlds, or do you think you were running out of time because of what had happened at Glasgow and things like that?
I always knew that I was going to get to the Worlds that season. I know that sounds weird, but I've got this mentality thing that I just like know things are going to happen before they happen. So like in my head, I was like, this year I'm going to make it to the Worlds, and it hadn't. So when I had podiums in Dublin, I didn't actually qualify for the Worlds because, I don't know, they only took the first podium in that event. It was like the only event where they only took the first podium, and I was like, right, okay. I was like, oh my God, right, okay. I've got loads of events to go. Didn't qualify in the next one, didn't qualify in it. And then this opportunity for London came up, like, I don't know, we signed up to like the week before we were going to it or something. And I was like, this is it.
Used to be it.
And then when we finished in 7th, I was like,
oh.
Is there another event? Like after this, it's going to... And then we got the email saying we qualified, and I was like, class.
So what's the difference? Are they just taking different percentages depending on how busy the races are?
Yeah, I think that's what it must have been, because like every other race that I seen in the top 3 were like going to the World Championships. It was just an unlucky race, I guess. But
I had actually Ailey on the podcast.
Seen that.
That was last week, and we went out with Christian and Ailey for some lunch on Sunday, and we're talking about, and Christian said a good thing. He's like, see, UK people, like, we're literally dominating this sport all around the way it's going. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, literally.
They should allow more people to get to Worlds. So
Yeah, this year it's even less. It's only, last year it was 2%, this year it's 1%.
of qualifiers.
Yeah.
Going into 2024 season.
Yeah, going into this season,
this-
it's only
this
the
next
top
season,
1%, yeah, qualified,
Right, so
because there's
Even
like
harder then.
not double numbers of last year, but not very far off. So like
Most events are selling out.
yeah,
Wasn't it happening?
they're balloting events now because like there's too many people, and people are saying that's unfair. But I'm like, part of me is like, maybe it is, because there's people that have been doing this sport and they want to get into races, but then it's not unfair, because obviously if you were the guy that was running Hyrox, you'd be wanting to bring new people into it, and the only way they can do that is ballot it, so new people get the chance to race. And so yeah, it's fair.
What was the Worlds like then? Was
It
whole
was
experience?
such a good experience. For me, it was really a special race, because I don't know if you had seen on social media, but my mum actually passed away. Not so when we came back from London, I got the text when I was in the airport from my dad saying she's been back in hospital.
And
So
this
I
is
was
your
a bit like,
your mum is in.
this is my mum that adopted me.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it's your adoption parents, but
yeah,
someone
so-
who you consider as your,
Yeah,
as your
mum.
mum.
So I was like, right, okay, but she'd been in hospital before, so even though I was a bit like upset about it, I wasn't like thinking anything was going to be major. So I got the flight home, went straight to hospital off the flight. She seemed okay. She was in hospital. She seemed okay. It's actually a week later that she passed away. And then her funeral was the day before I flew out to the Worlds for Nice. So for me, I was like, but when I told mum that I qualified for the Worlds, she was so excited, and her and my dad were like over the moon for me and that. So in my head, I was like, should I go out and compete here? Because I felt bad like leaving my family, and like especially my dad, like, and my brother and stuff like that. But my dad was like, no, you need to go and do it. Like, she wanted you to do it, and she'll be like annoyed if you didn't do it. So for me, like, that race was special, because the full way round when me and Lisa were racing, I was just like, my mum would have wanted me to do well, so I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing.
You had
That's
a lot
like
of fire for it.
like, that's the hardest race that I've like ever raced, and the most that I've ever pushed in a race. I know like I'll always push hard in a race, but like to me that was just like
Fueled by
different.
something
It was
else.
different, yeah.
You were only on the podcast a couple of months before that as well, and
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, it was
and
so-
everything was
so-
fine. So it was so fast. Well, I said everything was fine. She still had, so she had COPD. Is that how you say it?
right. Oh, right. Yeah.
But it was fine. And then before I went to London, I could tell that she wasn't right, but I had said to my dad, I need to take her to hospital, and he was like, no, she'll be fine. My mum's very like independent in terms of like, she wouldn't want to ask anybody else for help if she thought that she could fix it herself. But then I was like, no, I think you need to. And I was like to my dad, you need to sort that. And then I was like, did I even go to London? And I was fine. I went to London, everything was fine. She was phoning me and stuff like that. But then obviously when I came back, it was a bit different.
Yeah. Have you experienced any guilt or that since it happened?
Do you know the guilt that I've experienced is I've not actually grieved over it yet
No.
properly. Obviously the day that she actually passed away, I was upset only for 10 minutes roughly. And then the only other time that it's really hit me is I was watching Married at First Sight. This is really weird. And then the bride's mum came in, and I was just like, I'm not going to experience that.
So
So it was wee things, and I feel guilty because I'm like, everyone else around me, my family and stuff like that, are grieving, and I felt bad because I'm like, why am I not grieving? But I think that fitness has really put a massive big impact on the way that I like see things in life, like in my
strong-willed you are.
perspective and stuff. Because like for me, like I'm just so grateful that I got to have the time with that I did, and like the way that she pushed me in sport. Like if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be doing any of the stuff that I'm doing now. So I think for me, like, I'm just looking at the positives of why she was in my life and why she got brought into my life. Obviously I'm upset that she's not here, and there's times where it does get to me, but I've just not grieved over it properly. I think because I've been so busy with like straight out to the Worlds and then back, and then this ambassadorship, and like just constant with clients. Like I've not had a minute to just stop, and I think I'm almost scared to have that time to stop and slow down, because I know that it probably will hit me then. But
what are you scared of?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I think I'm scared of maybe like being vulnerable. I
Because
don't
you're
know what it
strong-willed.
is.
You're very.
Yeah, like
What you're explaining about your mum there, like that was something. The impression I got when you left last time is like how independent you are, how strong-willed. It's like I'm going to do this myself. And all that. So you've got a lot of her traits.
yeah, it's definitely like she's so independent, and she was so like straight to the point, and like me and her would like clash sometimes because I was so independent, she was so independent. So if we like ever fell out, like we'd just not talk to each other for like 4 days. But yeah, I get a lot of stuff from her that you don't even realise until like you take a step back and look at it, you're like, all right, you know, I actually do have a lot of what you had.
But you need one of those weekends, like those retreat weekends where you just switch off, you go away,
I know.
just get it through your system. Like they can be good for fitness. Like you can still do fitness stuff, but
Yeah.
it's time for yourself.
But I'm also like, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I'm like, what is grieving? Because like I know that she's not here anymore. So like, what do I need to like? What's process? Like, what do I need to process? Like I'm also in my head. I'm like, what do I actually need to process? 'Cause I know she's not here, and there's nothing I can do to change that. So I either move on and continue to do things that I enjoy and that she would have been proud of me for, or I can sit and sulk over it. And
well, you said something else. You said that just a second ago with the whole fitness. Fitness is it's a catalyst that allows to grieve. Like if you go into these competition things, it's not as if you can sit and blether to someone. You're in the zone. You're into this flow state, and in a way, it doesn't replace therapy, but it is therapeutic. And I say 100%. This to a lot of people. Like sometimes the gym can be your space. To grieve, to think, to grow, to whatever it is.
I think that's a track for me.
Yeah, and I think you've got these consistent elements in your weekly routine that you may not think that you have grieved, but
probably
you're
like
thinking about it, you're processing it,
yeah.
and that's your way of coping with it.
Yeah.
Have you watched the CrossFit documentary with Lazar passing away and all that?
So I watched a couple of YouTube things on it because I think it came up on social media, and I was like, no way.
So I was
really invested in like I pure sat for ages and like watched the lifeguards, like looking at them.
You were a lifeguard before, were you? No.
I was actually watching the lifeguards, and I was like, how did nobody?
Insane.
And it wasn't even like it was a fast thing. They were there for ages, and I was like, how did nobody see that?
Yeah, so I think a couple of the content or the videographers, rather than doing the whole Netflix documentary side of things, have all posted them on YouTube. Or one of the guys have posted them on YouTube. So it's like I think it's a 2-hour watch, and all the proceedings of the views is going to go to the foundation for him. So it's a really good one. I'll send you after it, and it's crazy. It's crazy to kind of. So it's still, they film the whole day and they've put together the whole documentary like they normally would. But the first half is like, because it's the first event, it's really kind of scary to watch. But what is interesting to watch, which I think similar things happening to you with the grieving process, is a lot of competitors chose to compete. And I never really understood why. You see, when you watch it, you're like, kind of makes sense. Like I think you can throw a lot of judgment to like whatever someone's choice was. But when you watch people, it's like, all right, it's no like you think, oh, they're just doing that for attention or whatever it is. But
I think a lot of the time you do things for other people. So, for example, I went back to work the day after my mum passed away, and that wasn't just for me. It was for me as well. Like it was for me because I knew that I needed to keep myself busy, but it was for other people as well because other people like rely on me and expect me to turn up for them, and I like still need to do that. So for me, like going into work the next day, like I was fine. Like people were like, why are you back at work? And I'm like, going to just stop asking me why I'm back at work and going to just get your sets done. Like I remember walking back into the hybrid class and like, you know what way it's like everyone just goes a wee bit silent when you walk in. And I was just
emotional, overwhelming, everyone's
and I was just like, it's fine guys, like we all know what's happened, like
burpees today.
Let's go. But yeah, I'm really like strong on turning up for things and turning up for people. So I think that's probably why people chose to like do the CrossFit Games after that happened, because they knew that he would have enjoyed it being there. And
it's a good watch regardless of like the incompetence and all the politics or whatever you want to get in.
I'll definitely give it a watch.
So I'll send you after. So today then, going into season 2024, 25. So weird saying
I always get mixed up. It's like football season. It was like over 2 years. I'm like, why did they just take January to December?
Am I right in saying Madrid and all these events that are coming up, they will be towards qualifying for, obviously they only do certain events that are qualified.
So you can qualify in any event.
Oh, you can you? Right.
Yeah. It's just, I'm sure you can. Imagine I say that. And then they're like, no, you can't. It's just the Elite 15. They have to qualify in the major event. So like they'll get set out. I think the first one's, can't remember.
Paris, I think. No. Yeah, no, Paris. I think Paris may be one. Can't remember. I'll look up.
Paris is one for the elite doubles, because they've just brought out elite doubles.
That's cool.
Where's the first one? I literally just read it like the other day.
Let me see.
Because Graham Halliday put it up, because he's going to be there. I can't remember when it was. Stuttgart? I think that might be it.
Hyrox Stuttgart, 28th of September.
Yeah, I think it might be that one.
Does it say on the actual main page when you look at it?
I'm not sure.
Or do you need to click on it? kind of ambassador are you? Come on.
I know. I think
Yeah, I
it's
should have this
sugar.
stuff memorised.
Honestly, there's so much things in my
So
mind of
many.
it.
No, I'm only messing.
People actually message me, expect me to be like the like owner of Hyrox or something. The questions I get asked, I'm like, please email Hyrox.
I guess that's the balancing act of you've grown a following.
I know.
And there is an expectation from you.
I know.
You may as well sort of
Questions
bring.
like,
You know what you should bring out? You should bring out your own running shoe. And joking aside, the amount of times you get running questions, think of the profit you can make in capitalising on this moment.
I don't need to bring out my. I'm like, where do you even start with that? How do you even make a shoe? I need to make the shoe, or do I go to somebody and say, can you make me?
I'm sure you could like white label the ons and put Mcbean.
These are actually mine. Mcbean machines.
Yeah, there we go. We found the name and everything for it.
That was my name for when I did Ninja Warrior. Oh my god, see the slagging I got.
I'm surprised we never even spoke about that last time.
I know.
We kind of brushed over it. I can see why you brushed over it.
I don't want to talk.
I seen the clip that you put up, man, and I was like,
that was so
I didn't realise
bad.
you'd done that. Were you raging at yourself?
Yeah. Do you know what was so funny? When I was watching the other day, as soon as I came out, my mum's pure, "You're looking no bad today, hen." Like, so thanks, son.
Was that one of the first events? Is it how was it set up in Ninja Warrior?
So you don't get to practice the course.
Yeah.
And I just like to highlight that right now, right, because loads of people are like, "How could you have missed that?" And I'm like, you don't get to go on the course. Like, they take you round. So, and also I was the smallest there, just to let you know. They take, like, they walk you round. So basically they bring you all out and they say, this is the first, second. Or did they? Yeah, they did the night before. Like, wait a minute. The night before they did. And then, but you don't actually get to test it. So you don't really know, like, how far away these things are or how high they are or whatever. And I was actually raging because so I was day one. And on day two, because half the girls fell on day one, they brought out, like, a box for them to stand on day two. Right, I was like, fucking send me in again now.
You're like, where's the fair? There's
and then because I was the smallest, they used me as like a demonstrator for the rest of the week. They were like, we need you to stay here and test the course so that we know that everyone can manage it. I'm like, oh, very good. And I fell another 17 times over the week. Yeah.
Off camera. Did you get it eventually?
That jump, yeah.
Did you get it?
Yeah, the next day when they were like, test that, I got it. I'm like, great. People are like, oh, you went too fast. I'm like, oh, very good. Says you on the floor.
I could see the
2 feet on the ground.
Like you were locked in, like that nervousness and whatever you want to call it, the rush of energy.
I've got the race mentality, I'm like, just get through this as fast as you can.
Because you didn't give for the clip I seen, you didn't give yourself a break. You just went.
No, I went.
Looked
Let's go.
Go for it.
No, I did that.
Diving into the water.
Maybe looking back, I should have took a second to think about what was happening, but I didn't.
Never fancy trying it again.
I probably would. I need a rematch. I need to go back on. I don't want to embarrass myself again. So
it's like one of them. It's like you're prepared to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So going into the 24-25 season, you're going into this season, and I would imagine with the hopes and the aspirations, dreams to get to the Worlds again.
Absolutely.
Or are you wanting to
qualifying
try and
for the Worlds this
get
year.
into where do you feel that your performance lies with going into this season for the whole Elite 15, the new doubles? What's the word I'm looking for here?
Like the doubles, like qualifying.
Yeah. So that's obviously a new category that's coming in. Are you trying to push the solo side of things?
Possible. I personally enjoy doubles more. I love competing solo, but the thing about the difference with doubles and solos, doubles, you're there with somebody, it's more fun, it's still really competitive, you're getting to push each other. Solo, you're in the fucking pain cave yourself. And let me tell you, that's not fun. It's fun after.
When they're done.
The biggest thing about solos is like, oh, I've done that.
Right.
Like that's it. That for me, it's like, oh, I've done that myself. Achievement. Whereas the doubles, it's good. It's like more adrenaline. It's more fun. It's just better. I prefer doubles. I love solo as well. I'm going in to do my first pro solo in Dublin this year. See how that goes. But doubles, if I was qualified for the Elite 15, I'd like to do it as a doubles.
Right. So is that where your head's at then?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I would love to be in the Elite 15 solo as well. Mm-hmm. But it would be a more fun experience, I think, as a doubles team. I don't know if this season or next season, but I'm going to get there. Mm. Whether it's doubles or solo, we'll be there.
So the timings just now, am I right in saying it's like 53 minutes or something, I think, for... Oh no, that was mixed doubles.
Mixed doubles.
What times are you looking at for?
58, I'm sure, mate. Right. 56 or 58, Megan Jacoby. Just good. What else? So, so what did I get? So in the open category last year, my fastest was 108. I'm a lot fitter this year. I'm a lot faster this year.
I've seen your times that you were looking for a
Well, me and Joe are
doubles
going to go
battle.
for a sub 60 in Madrid. So we got 1-1 in our simulation there. Obviously, simulation and actual Hyrox is different. But we kind of averaged that off of an 8-minute rock zone time. I don't think I've ever spent 8 minutes in a rock zone. So hoping for a sub 60 in Madrid. Obviously, we've only trained twice together.
Have
We've
you
not
done
really.
Madrid before?
No. So that's one race I didn't do last year, and you have to run the opposite way, I think, in Madrid. Last year they were running the opposite way.
So that's where...
I'm sure
what
they
do you mean
were.
what do you mean the opposite way?
Like, so normally you would run like anti-clockwise? Yeah, anti-clockwise.
Yeah.
But then Madrid runs clockwise. I don't know why they done it. It was like the only event. I think there was one more event that ran that way.
Oh, wait. Because me and Jill done Madrid. I'm trying to
Did
think. And
You must have ran that way round.
let's...
Clockwise, like where the ticker
it was
goes.
it was anti-clockwise.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, no, because John and Harry competed as a male doubles and they were doing anti-clockwise. No, they were doing clockwise.
I can't remember.
So
I'm trying to think when I came out. I think I've got this right. So if I came out, I ran up and then to the left and then round. That's anti-clockwise. You'd make me doubt if I'm saying clockwise or anti-clockwise.
So they were going anti-clockwise?
Yeah.
I'm sure the map was clockwise.
No.
And I'm sure they said it was clockwise. I'm
Whatever
hoping
it
it's
is,
anti-clockwise.
One thing that I would say about Madrid, if they do the same setup this year, that rock zone, definitely.
People were saying the rock zone was huge.
We didn't stop once, and we were comparing times to Glasgow because it was the same weekend. That's why we couldn't get Glasgow tickets.
Oh, was it?
It was the same weekend as Glasgow. That's when I started following you because I remember.
Same weekend, Madrid and Glasgow that year
this
there?
year, February. Yeah, and so in February. No, February. Yeah, February it was, wasn't it?
No, it couldn't have been because Harry and John competed in Glasgow as well.
Oh, was it? Oh, we couldn't get tickets for Glasgow, sorry. That's what it was. I've
so
just
it must have
paired them
been,
together.
yeah, it must have been like
Sorry, I'm
weeks
absolutely
before.
waffling.
There's so many
Way
events
off.
happening.
Just do them all. But that was, so we done that and then we were comparing times to the previous Glasgow or something, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we were looking at the times like, right, okay, 5 minutes in the rock zone. And we're looking at people that we know that you always do that comparison. You're like, we're fitter than them. Not throwing any shade of that, but we're looking at it's like, they only had 5 minutes in the rock zone. And then me and Jill never stopped once. Our legs were moving constantly. And I was like, how the fuck were we 7 minutes in that rock zone?
Oh, were you?
So it was like 7. But
yeah, so
there was one station where we done the pulls and we ran out. And then Jill was like, that was only 3. And I was like, fuck.
no.
Ran back in, arguing in Spanish.
That always happens in the pool.
Oh, it's because you only...
Because you finished at the opposite side. Yeah.
So that threw us off. We ran back in. They were arguing in Spanish. And then we're like, no, you've done it. And I was like, oh, so we have. So we wasted like maybe 30 seconds
Oh
there.
my God.
But anyway.
That's fun language I want to learn, Spanish.
I know. I want to understand what no rep means in Spanish and how you challenge that. Because I'm like, there is no freaking way that's a no rep. But
they've added in a new rule this season where if you step on that line, you're getting another length. So anybody that leaves before they're finished, their length's going to have to do an extra.
Oh, the line. Oh, you're right. Yeah, the line step.
Yeah.
What do you know where you stood in that? Were you getting any?
No, I didn't stand in the line at all. I always fall over the rope though.
Oh, do you?
Every race I fell over the rope. Yes.
Giving it your all.
Under my heel.
Right, so going into the next season then, big aspirations. There's obviously more competitors in the mix, but
so many more competitors.
I think that's why it's going to happen to the race as it evolves. I don't think you can stay stagnant with it. So if you've got a time there existing, it's irrelevant. That time needs to get beat. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring you back on was kind of run through what tips you would give to. I wrote a couple down myself, but I think you been in the midst of that for the last year.
Yeah.
And then going into this season, it'd be very interesting to see what your advice would be to either how did you map out your tips? Was it for someone new or
I wrote out kind of both. So I think the main tip this season especially is run more. Like I couldn't put enough emphasis on that. Run more. Like that's been the biggest change you'll see from last season to this season is people's running times. Because you know what it's like, there's so many run clubs popped up like here, there and everywhere. People are getting really down to the T with their times and stuff on the track, and you're seeing all these times coming up on social media and you're like, right, okay, so you can see there's a massive big
is there any intimidation from you as a competitor when you see times?
I'm
what's some
fucking
crazy
hell,
times?
I'm going to try it out.
So running more is kind of the advice that you've seen before. What do you think with the whole, and I would imagine this might be that you've got on your list as well, but maybe overdoing it as well, just throwing the whole kitchen
overtraining.
Overtraining.
So I think people are panicking a bit, like you
Yeah.
said there, and they're like, right, okay, I need to run every single day of the week, or I need to train this many times, and I'm like, right, okay, if you're new to this and you're not used to training that much, don't do it because you're going to get injured. If if you're used to it, fair enough. I mean, I'm doing 5 weight training sessions a week, 5 weight training sessions, 3 conditioning sessions, 3 runs at the moment.
5 weight training sessions and 3 conditioning?
Yeah, and 3 runs. And even though I say 3 runs, like those conditioning sessions have got runs in them as well. I'd probably say I'm covering like 30, 35, 40k a week now on running. So it's a lot. For somebody who is looking at my schedule and not really done this before, they'd be like, I need to do that.
Really, really important point to highlight, because everyone follows Elite 15, they follow the ambassadors like yourself, and they see what you're doing, they're like, right, that's what I need to do. I think that's it's a very common mistake. It's like you, and this is actually an episode I'm going to do as a solo episode, but I kind of wish I was a newbie again, because there's so many benefits to being a newbie that you don't have to train as freaking hard. It's like one of the best benefits you can have. It's like you can do very, and I'll say this loosely, very little, but get an extreme reward in terms of your progress and what you can see.
If you're not used to doing this type of training, you go in and you do maybe 2 runs a week or 1 run a week, and you do some conditioning sessions, you're going to get a lot fitter than what you were 4 weeks ago. I think that's been a couple of, like, not issues with my clients, but they see me, and they see me being a good athlete, and they see me being really, really competitive. So off the back of that, what I've noticed is my clients are becoming really competitive, and I'm having to just ground them a wee bit, and I'm like, I love that you're competitive, but this is your first Hyrox, and they've got these high expectations, and I love setting expectations, and I love being like,
aim for the sky,
aim for higher than what you think that you're going to get, because you'll always end up higher than what you think you got anyway. But because I hold these really high, like, what's the word, expectation of myself, they're seeing that, they're kind of creating dreams, expectations that are maybe a bit too high. And I know I said, like, create expectations that are higher than what you think, but some of them are like stressing out. They're stressing themselves out about it, and I'm like, calm down, this is your first one. Let's go into it. Let's see how you get on. Let's enjoy it. The other biggest tip I would give is enjoy the race, especially if this is your first one. Like, fair enough, if you want to set an expectation, do that, but also remind yourself that it's your first one and you've not done this before.
Do you wish you could go back to your first race? Do you think you took it in?
No. I didn't take the atmosphere in on my first solo anyway, because I was locked into, I'm getting a podium here. I got the podium, but I was so locked in that I actually can't remember what was happening outside of me. And when I look back at videos of it, I'm like, oh, that happened. I can't remember any of it. My first Hyrox was a relay. Definitely took the atmosphere in there, because it was a bit different, because
you need to rest.
You had the rest time. First doubles, took the atmosphere in because you got that kind of rest in between. But I do wish I'd maybe like took it in a bit more in my solo. Although, because I've came from a competitive background like most of my life for the sports that I've done, so that's why I feel and think and do things that way. But most of my clients haven't came from that competitive background, and they don't really know competition yet. So for them to go in with that expectation's just not realistic, because I'm like, you need to go in and enjoy this and soak up the atmosphere and understand why you want to compete and why you want to like be the best.
How do you set expectations? How do you get them to kind of maybe not bring their expectations down a bit, but understand of setting more realistic expectations with it?
So I think I'm going to use an example of what's happened recently. A couple of the girls are setting these really high expectations of they need to be running faster and they need to be getting these times, but they're not, like, they've not been running for that long at all. Right. So for me, I'm like, right, let's pull it back. I've taken a couple of the girls that are roughly the same pace and put them together. We're going to be doing a simulation next week with them, because last week a couple of them went into simulation and they didn't finish it because they'd set their expectations so high that they were going to do so well, and they started off with the ski and the run, and they were like, I'm done, because they were behind what they thought they should be. And I'm like, that's not what this is about. And they seen that everybody there was like faster than them, and they knew that they were fitter than them and knew that they were faster than them. And I was like, let's pull it back. Let's go and do a simulation together. Use it at the same pace. Let's run it together and let's get through it, and just show yourself that you can actually do this, because once you have got the confidence that you can do it, then you can start building from there. If you go in with high expectation and you actually don't get through it, you're never going to want to do that again. No, that's not what it's about. It's about having fun and like enjoying it, and then from there getting that enjoyment out of competing, because you want to do it better next time. And like, that's what competing about for me, like always enjoying it, but always like trying to be better the next time after, not the first time. Like, just go out and
100%.
Set your base.
The best advice I can give, you train more of the Hyrox competitors than I do. Yep. I've done it for me and Jill, and I've done programs for friends and that. So what I found was really good was setting your benchmark before we even do anything training wise. It's like, let's run somewhat a simulation. If we can't get a proper simulation in a gym, let's run a track equivalent of 1K rest, and it gives us a rough idea where you're running at, where your benchmark is, where your baseline is. And I found that's been really powerful to go, I want to run a 4-minute kilometre, but here's my time limit, 6 minutes just now. So if I see that improving, it gives me confidence in my ability, what I can do. And I've seen that with some clients as well. And I've took this from the strength world as well, because I'm known like more of the guy for compound lifts, and every client seems like, what you kind of bench or what you back squat 60 kilo, and it's like, right, we can't even back squat just now, so
let's calm down
a couple of steps back, but it's great the way you are. Let's figure out, let's look at your squat first. And I always video it, and I love the comparison. So like, look where you are, and they can start to go, right, I need to get that better before I think of the dream that I want to get. It's
always good to have that expectation. Like, I'll never shoot anyone's expectations down, but what I'm saying is, let's just pull it back and build the steps up to that. So that might be, if you want a 4-minute kilometre, that's next season. But this season, at the moment, you're running a 6-minute kilometre. So before race day, we're going to be running a 5-minute kilometre. And then next season, we're going to be on 4. But from us to get to that right now, is pushing yourself too much, you're going to end up injured and you're going to end up further back than what you were. So
how hard is it to be patient?
So this is a funny question, because like, I can be really patient and I can be really like, fuck's sake, like, I can get triggered so fast. Like, so fast. Like, I can get triggered so fast at things, like, unbelievably fast. But I think I'm really patient as well. Sometimes though, man, I can just flip. I'm like, oh my god.
That's why the quote from a coach is like, do as I say, not as I do. Sometimes that statement holds so true. So running, it's like, put more emphasis on running. I think it's a really good one to think about. There's 8 times more reward if that gets better. Then there's that, like, say you better your efficiency running by 30 seconds, then that can be amplified through 8 different times that you run throughout.
I always say to people, I'm like, if you are wanting to get better at Hyrox and you're wanting to bring your time down, running is how you're bringing your time down, because you could take 30 seconds off of each run. So you go from a 4:30 kilometre to a 4-minute kilometre, and that's 4 minutes off your time altogether. So that could bring you from a 1 hour 2 to 58 minutes. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that's like 4 minutes just by taking 30 seconds off each run. I mean, for me to take somebody from a 4:30 to a 4-minute kilometre can be done in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So
let's talk about the actual running specifics of that. Obviously, this is very individualised in where you start with. What would you say if you had to kind of split your runs up in a week, whether you do 2 runs, 5 runs, 3 runs, whatever it is, how hard do those runs need to be? Because I think that's another thing that people overshoot. It's like every run is at race pace. And it's like, no, there should be, would you say there's like 1 run at race pace?
So with my clients that are coming into, I'll do what I do in a minute, but with my clients that are coming into Madrid especially, so now, so they're all on 3 runs a week. So they're all doing a zone 2, or I like to call it an easy pace run. And from when they've started training with me, that increases by 5 or 10 minutes every single week. So some of them are up at 90 minutes, some of them are up at 100 minutes, some of them are still at 60 minutes. They've got a track interval session, so that's I go between kind of 600 metres, 400 metres, 800 metres, 1K, 1.2K.
Any
track.
Reason why?
Just to get them to cover different distances, different rest periods, getting their heart rate through different kind of zones. And that's always fast, hard effort. So, for example, on their 1 kilometre runs, we're going like max what you can do for a kilometre. We're resting for 2 or 3 minutes. We're going again. What I've seen a lot from like other people doing running and stuff like that is your rest times aren't actually long enough. So
that's the mistake that you make with the gym.
Yeah, so see, like I seen someone the other day doing 400 metre intervals times 20, and they had like 60-second rest in between. And I'm like, you actually physically can't do your interval training properly because you're not recovered. Like, see, if I came off the back of 400 and I literally was at 1 minute 45 recovery, and I was still like, I can't run that next one. Yeah. Like, obviously, the fitter you get, the less rest time you're going to need.
This is a big misconception with explosive training, and you'll know this more from sprints. Because you sprint and you rest 5 minutes, and it's like, I'm ready to go again. So no, you're not. Chill out. We're looking for maximum explosive.
I remember when I was doing my sprint training, literally one session could have been like 6 sets of 80 metres, right, over the course of an hour. So you'd do an 80 metre sprint, you'd go back, you'd do another one, you'd come back, you'd rest for 7 to 10 minutes.
How weird is it? It's because you're running, isn't it? It's like, well, you can't stand about, but the same applies when you're strength training in the gym. If you're doing 3 rep maxes, 5 rep maxes, you want
need
to
more
give enough rest.
Yeah. You don't, definitely the rest. And I'm like, you can't actually push as hard as your body physically can if you're not allowing yourself to rest properly to go again. Like, I think people are trying to get the least amount of recovery they can to look better. I'm like, yeah, but your actually runs aren't going to benefit off the back of that.
Just now, like,
I know.
Why are you hiding your heart rate?
And then you go into their elapsed time and it's like 40 minutes more than what their actual time was. I'm like, very good.
What's going on here? So we got one hard run, one long run.
One hard run on track. It's broken up, so intervals. One long, easy pace run. People say conversational pace, but it's actually slower than that.
Yeah. Those feels awkward to do.
One kind of threshold run. People love to use that word, don't they? So that's a run where you are going to be like at your kind of 80 to 90% of your max pace for that run.
So let's put that to numbers.
That's over like 7 to 10 to 15 to 20k. Like, that's a hard, fast run.
So let's put that in terms of pacing wise. So what are you expecting your race pace to be roughly just now?
3:45.
So if you're doing a threshold run, for example, where would that sit?
So if I was running over 7 kilometres, I would try and hold that at 4:15.
Right, so you're kind of putting a bit...
Yeah. Aye. So putting some more onto it, yeah. The point of that run is just to build up your kind of lactate threshold. So at the point where your body's building up that lactate, yeah. So the more you run, the more your body's like, the faster you go, your body's able to process that better. So eventually that will become faster and faster and faster, but you've got to just take it, like, progress it each week. Yeah. It's like anything, like, same with your interval runs. Like, I kind of go on a pattern with some of my clients now. So they've been doing like fours, then they've been next week, they've been doing 6, then they've been doing 8s, then they've been doing 1Ks. Then 1.2k, when I get up to 1.2k, I do a ladder. So I go 1.2, 1s, 800s, 600s, 400s, 200s. And the point of that is for them to increase their pace as they get lower down so that they can get used to working hard. And then I'll go back and we'll go back to the 200s, 400s, just so that they can
just strategies,
isn't it? So they can see, oh, well, last time we did 400s, you were running a like 80 second 400. This time we've done it, you're now doing 70 seconds. So like, that's your progress over the last 5 weeks, and they love seeing that.
Yeah.
In the track club that I started, it's been so beneficial doing the time trials there as well, because we did 800 time trials, 1k time trials, and from like within the space of 10 weeks, like, everyone's time improved.
Yeah, it's your benchmark, because like what we were saying earlier, it takes the focus to here's where I'm at. Let that be the main focus, and if that gets better, then my overall performance has to be getting better.
Yeah, and it's funny because people are like, oh, I never thought I'd be able to run that, and I'm like, it's just because you've not had structure. Like, when you've got that structure in place and you write down the numbers and you've got something to manage, like, people love to say what's measured can be managed or something like that. But it's true, like, if you write it down and you've got this number, you can work and you can get better. Obviously, there's a point where you're not going to be able to run like faster than that in a 1k. Like, there comes that point where you're like, right, okay, what's the fastest 1k time at the moment? Like a 2.
What was the Olympics? It was I seen the Olympic time and I was like,
actual rapid.
Oh no, it was a 10k. That was the 10,000 meters.
I think it's like a 220 or like a...
Yeah, it's something insane.
Something mad.
Yeah.
It can't be a 220 actually. It must be like a shorter than that.
Try and find it. But yeah, great. Like, the whole running hype is a thing, but it's a thing for a reason, and it's because of events like Hyrox and all these other things. Right, so let's go into tip number 2 then. So what have you got?
Tip number 2... What did I write down again? Make sure you practice the stations. That sounds so stupid, but see the amount of people that are going in there and they can't squat low enough for the wall balls, and they're just getting no reps for no reason. Like,
do you think that's at fault of them doing wall balls and not being coached?
Probably, yeah. Like, I think a lot of people go into this and just like, see the amount of people I've heard, oh, I just signed up for it and didn't even train for it. I'm like, cool, mate. What did you achieve out of that?
That piss you off a wee bit?
No, because I'm just like, you're just stupid.
It's like, going to hurt yourself.
I know. Well, maybe not even hurt themselves. Like, well done for them. Like, what do you want now? A chocolate medal?
It's like, it's the arrogance side of things maybe like, coming off.
Well done. Practice the movements. And do you know what? See if you're going in as a doubles, practice with your doubles partner. Because you could do a run through with them of what you think can be efficient. But then when you actually do it and you realise, oh, we could actually be faster if we done it this way. So it's good to just run over things, especially with like sled pull, sled push. Like, there's obviously different techniques you can use, so it's good to just go over it and make sure that you are using what you feel comfortable with and what you think is going to get you through it the fastest. But the most silly mistake is the wall balls. Like, honestly, just go and do some mobility, please.
Let's get. Well, that's the thing. Like, is it the there's a reason why they picked the patterns that they did, but
Yeah.
wall balls, that was one, I must admit, it was a movement I shat on for years. Like my good friend Dan, he used to see in his stories, and I'm like, nah, that's too hybrid
balls.
for me. I was like, there's no
Too
need.
hybrid.
And then obviously I had to force, my hand was forced, that and burpees had to come into the plan. I was like,
Love
you
a
know what?
burpee.
There's actually, I can't believe I'm saying this, but there's a bit of value to this, and it's the whole squatting pattern and being
Yeah.
kind of press above. So, but I've always had emphasis on ass to grass, and it's a big frustration. I'm like, that should be a no rep. Why are they getting reps here? Like, what's going on?
Well, I can't obviously comment because I didn't see it from outside of my point of view, but maybe it was in Worlds, and the judge went no rep, and I hit the target, and I was like, are you joking me? I was like, I've never not squatted below parallel in my life. I was like, stand up right now and show me your squat. Because I was like, there's no chance that wasn't below my hips. And see, I was like, what? But see, to be fair, see the people that are doing like 20 reps and they're just getting no rep because their hips aren't low enough. I'm like, seriously, like go and just
moving.
How like over the course of a week you could get from not being able to squat low enough to below the depth that they require. Like, it's just laziness.
Is it wall balls you see that the most happening on then?
Wall balls, yeah.
Like
And
being kind of prepared for the exercises.
yeah, and burpees. But I was actually getting slagged for this because there's a video that like took right off on my page at the Worlds where we were doing burpees, but we're actually moving so fast that it looks like I'm taking an extra step between the burpees, but I'm actually not. So basically what's happening is, I don't know if you've seen one of the new rules. I do the step ups.
So you need to have your hands.
Yeah, one of the new rules is you can't take off from 1 foot. So off the back of that video, I was taking off from 1 foot. So that's
smart. I wish I'd done that last year.
So like, not to like cheat or anything like that, just because like I was doing it so fast, I was just coming up, going, and it wasn't that I was taking an extra step, but people were appearing, you're taking an extra step. I was like, I can watch it. No, I'm not. I'm just going rapidly actually. But now they've brought it in, you actually have to bring it in 2 feet, jump off from 2 feet,
right?
Which does make it a lot harder.
Yeah.
But that's what it is.
Yeah, it's just need to change up how you're doing them. So what about like in terms of practicing the exercises and stuff like that? The sled drives and sled push can be a hard one to practice only because the gyms that are available.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people overlook that. It's like, you're pushing and you're pulling, I'll just do it on the day. It's like no, there's a lot of practice that goes into play with that as well. So there's always a gym that has the sleds, and I think if you're still working out in a gym that doesn't have a sled, regardless if you're doing Hyrox or not, it's a great exercise to have in your programming anyway. Find one that does. Yeah,
exactly. And plus, what's a day past a tenner?
Yeah, like, if you're going to do.
And if you're training for a Hyrox, you should be in an environment where other people are training for the same sport as you. So just change your gym for the next, like, I don't know.
Yeah, what's a block of training? Like
however
8
long
weeks,
you're
12
training.
weeks or whatever?
Yeah. Or go to for example, go to a Hyrox class that has got the sleds in it that you can at least practice with once or twice a week.
Yeah. Good. Okay, next sort of tip. Do you remember?
So what we've done running, we've done practice movements. Enjoy yourself. I already kind of touched on that. Like, just enjoy yourself. Don't put too much pressure on it. A good one that I wrote down was, if you've done it before, set expectations and set targets for yourself. And if you've not done it before, don't set expectations. Because you actually don't know what you're going to. Like you think like you look at it and you're like, 8 kilometers, 8 events, that'll be sound. Until you get 4 events in, you're like, what the hell have I just signed up to?
So usually after the ski erg, once you've maxed out, went too hard at the start, and you're like, I'm in the pain cave.
Your next one, you're just jogging. You're like, so that's another tip. Like, if you've done it before, I love setting targets and setting times and stuff. Like, my clients that have done Hyrox before, we're looking at their times from before. I'm like, right, you were hitting 450 kilometers. This season we're hitting 430s. So in training you're running 415s and that's the end of it. Like you've got metrics to work off. You're hitting these times so that when we go in there you've got that 15 second kind of barrier, because whatever your max kilometre is, you're not running that in a Hyrox. Like I could go out and run a 240 kilometre, right? 240, 250 kilometre, right? But see, in a Hyrox you're not hitting that because you're fatigued. So I think set targets if you've done it before, absolutely. And another reason I like to set targets if you've done it before is because when I come out the rocks, and I always set my stopwatch so that I know kind of roughly what time I'm going to be running. But also, they got the screen when you run round to see what laps you're on. If it wasn't for my stopwatch, I probably wouldn't have a clue when I'm going in, when I'm coming out. If I could run around, I'm like, am I meant to go in there now? I just look at my watch, I'm like, oh, it says 2:30, I've got an hour lap to do.
That's why doubles are good. So I was like,
I'm not.
is this her first one or second one, Jill?
Even
She's
doubles,
like,
boxes are like,
I don't know. And I was like, oh, you take a big gamble.
Yeah.
Big gamble.
But I just like, cause see if I'm like halfway through, so for example, in Berlin, I got to the burpees and I was like, right, I need to be out of here in a certain time. I think it was like 35 minutes or something.
Right.
And I ran out the burpees and I was on 34. And I was like, class. And they don't just gave me like an extra boost because I was like, I'm ahead of where I need to be. Like, fucking class. Like, let's go.
Sorry to interrupt today's episode. Just really quickly, if you haven't yet left a 5-star rating on Spotify, it would mean the world to me if you could do that. It is the best way to support the podcast, because with more ratings, then it gets pushed to a wider audience. If you want to share this on your story on Instagram as well, you can tag me at Coach Crossar, and you can also tag the Bulletproof Mindset podcast page, which is at Bulletproof Mindset __. So with that being said, let's get back to the episode.
Whereas if you don't have that, like, I don't really know like what you're working off of. Like if you've done it before, like I feel like you always need a target. Whereas if you've not done this sport before, go in and enjoy it. Set a benchmark. See what's it, and then from there we can set some bigger targets. If you want to set targets, and clients come to me, that's my first one, but I do want to set some targets. I'm like, right, okay, you're running a 6-minute kilometre now. Let's try and get like a 6-minute when you're racing.
That's how doing simulations and benchmark sessions.
Yeah, so like the simulation we done at the weekend, like my clients coming off the back of it were like, oh, what's that compared to like the fastest people doing it? And I'm like, well, look, this is where they're at, this is where they're now. If you want to be there, this is what we need to do over the next couple of weeks. But again, don't set your expectations too high. If you want to get there, I'll do my damned hardest to get you there. But remind yourself it is your first one. Yeah. So enjoy it.
For mine and Gillian's first one, I think they'll only expect it, like, it depends on the character who's signing up for these. I think if you're a very competitive nature, you start dreaming about it. You're like, oh, that podium. I
literally dreamed about that third. Like, that was weird. I was like dreaming about it. And I was like, that's going to happen.
So, like, when you sign it, I'm a very competitive guy, and I'm like, yeah, just doing it for fun and all that. And it's like, you do your first run, you start getting better, and you're like, fucking want to win this now. But at the same time, I think what me and Jill said was like, we're looking at the times that we've seen people have done. It's like, you know what, I'd be really happy if we get under an hour 20. And then it was like, let's get under an hour 10. And then as we done our simulation and stuff like that, gave us more emphasis and energy for it. But
as well.
But enjoying it was the one thing that you're right, I don't know how that's going to look in solos. Never done a solos one, but with the doubles, like, we're running around and it's like, we're looking at each other and it's like thumbs up, thumbs down. It's like having fun, like people even running like the
fist pumps and stuff you do when you come out of like stations, like that just gives you an extra boost that you don't realise is actually happening. Yeah. How you're doing the pain cave yourself.
It's like laughing at you, like there's banter in between it. So it is fun to experience. And the first one, isn't it, like, this is always one of the things like you look back at and you say to yourself, you're never going to experience that again because you've already experienced it. So you may as well enjoy the first one, because it's only if it's something that you end up continuing to do, they're just going to get more and more competitive.
Literally, they are. I'm like, what are they going to change? Because they must have to change something.
So we asked you this last time. You were like, nah, we'll stay the same. Like, but do you believe maybe it will change more?
Yeah.
Any insider knowledge?
Not giving nothing away.
No, so there's something that could change then.
Could potentially be, but it might not be. Just see how it changes over the next couple of years.
I'll ask you on podcast. Everyone listens like, bastards.
Well, obviously they brought in the 100 balls so far. It's not really a drastic change, but it's change. But how long can they... I was actually speaking about something. How long can they run the same event for? And people keep investing into. But at the same time, people love the same thing.
Yeah, the argument last time was marathons. Marathons are in the same places, same time, but I guess there's a movement component to this that I don't know, like how often. It'll be interesting to see what world records are set this year. Yeah, that'll be.
And they've brought in the anti-doping thing as well. So is that was anti-doping or dope? Yeah. So that's a big one.
So I was asking about what happens with Elite 15 to someone that we know. And they were saying that they all get tested after the Elite 15 race and before the Elite 15. I think it was all the Elite 15. It? But anyway, whatever. I don't. So you never know with this, right? Yeah. You can fudge anything these days, but you just hope that the integrity of the people they're open and honest with it. But we've not really got that far in society in this day and age when people.
There's never gonna be 100% honesty in sport.
No.
Like,
It's just the game. Even with the Olympic athletes, it's the same.
The only person that's really going to know is yourself.
Aye, that's the frustrating thing about it. But
you could literally have somebody up like chokehold against the wall being like, have you
it's their whole life.
And they're like, nope.
It's their whole life. They're never gonna say about it.
Especially if you are sitting there with world records and you get caught, you're losing them.
You're fucked. You're tarnished. There's no coming back from that.
Like, you're done. You're done for. Might as well just go away to the Sahara Desert and just.
But apparently with Elite 15, a couple of people who qualified unexpectedly pulled out from injuries and things like that. And rumours is, you never know with these, but rumours is that they had failed the test that they were doing. And
oh my God.
Aye, it's like, oh, my injury. And it's like, but here's what I don't get, because CrossFit's the same. CrossFit, they're a bunch of liars, man. Like, I don't care what you say, right? But you've had athletes who have been stung with it, and it's like a 4-year ban. And then they're back 4 years later, and they're competing, they're getting second, third in these events. It's like, we're just going to write off that there's no lifelong advantage, even if you do it for a short window of what you can do with this sort of stuff. So,
where is there like off?
Oh yeah, well, you need to think like if you've felt what it feels like to squat 100 kilos because you're enhanced, right? Just using that as a nice round number. Even if you got off it, there's a CNS component of, there's a bit of a memory there. Might not be able to still do it, but I don't know the ins and outs of the science behind it, but I can tell you firsthand that there is an advantage of that CNS response.
I've not looked actually too much into the whole doping and stuff like that, just because, like, coming from an athletics background, it was just no. Obviously, there's sports out there, and like from being around more kind of bodybuilders and stuff like that, and realising that it's quite big in their kind of sport, and then I've learned a bit more about it. But for me, like, I didn't really think about it before at all, because in the sport it just wasn't mentioned, or wasn't like.
Do you ever get accused?
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Yeah. People are like, she must be on stuff. Cause my bum. They're like, oh, what are you taking? Why are you doing this?
Runners can't have
have
muscle.
Exactly. Or like, oh, how are you that fast? Or how are you that fast and strong? Or like, how do you hold? One is like, how do you have that physique like all year round? And I'm like, because I train hard all year round.
It's not your hard work. It's never the hard work. And
I've been accused before, and I'm like, well, I can just see if I said to you, yeah, I'm on stuff. Like, what are you going to do? Go away and tell 100 people, and see if I say to you, I'm not on stuff. What are you going to do? Go away and say, oh, I think she is. So like, doesn't really matter. We say I'm not on stuff now, right? But doesn't really matter what you say. People always have that opinion of you anyway. So yeah. I've coming from somewhere that's not been into like people taking steroids and stuff to enhance their performance. I've not really had an interest in it until I like was around more bodybuilders and stuff like that, and they were just taking it, and to them it like was a normal
part
thing.
Of the process.
And a couple of them have been like that to me. Oh, if you took this, you'd be like elite, like like blah blah. So in the back of your mind, you're like, what could I be if I like done that? So there's a part of you that's curious, but to me, I would never go into that, just from like an integrity and like
what you want to do in the sport.
And for me, honesty is like above everything. And for me to say I was to take something and win, I'd feel guilty. So I'd be like, oh my God, I'm actually not.
Why is she not? She's always smiling. Why is she not smiling? You just got first place.
Yeah. See if every single person was doing it, right? Every single person was doing it, and I was doing it, and then I won, I wouldn't feel as bad. But to be in a sport where there's people not doing it, and there's some people maybe doing it, and you were to win out of everybody, then that's not fair. This
was a point I raised on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, and I was just like, you know what? The one thing that would make me do CrossFit more was if they were honest about this, because there is no way that they aren't doing that in their camps, and there's just a way that whatever the method is, that they don't get that to bring up in tests or don't get tested. But it's just nuts to. I wish it would just be like bodybuilding, an open category and a not so open category, and you can see clearly the difference in the performance and that sort of stuff. But even in that world, there's still people's like, oh yeah, I'm natural, because they want the natural status. But it would just be interesting to see how the world evolves with that sort of stuff.
I love that natural status as well. I'm like, I don't know if myself, but
you got to put it in your bio.
Yeah, probably.
You need to.
I've got no space left in my bio actually.
Too much
I actually had to. There was something in my bio that I wanted to keep, and I couldn't keep it because it was like, you don't have any characters left, and I was like,
fuck.
Why are you deciding what I say about my life?
I know, this is my profile.
I know.
Right, so what was that one there that was enjoying the process? If you've not done it before, don't set expectations necessarily. Have a rough idea of times maybe. And if you have done it before, then you've got metrics to work off. I think that's the important.
You've got the right to set like targets.
'Cause you've done one. What about doing different events? This is a wee bit controversial, but
different events as in
cities, different courses. Yes, it's the same thing, but the way the courses are set up.
Okay, so you loads of people love to compare times with other people and their mates and stuff like that, but you actually can't compare
Glasgow and Madrid.
Yeah, you can't because like it's fair enough. Like people sitting at home, like, oh, she got a 115, haha, I got a 110, get up you. I'm like, yeah, but there's different course, like it's laid out differently. The rock zones are different, so even though it's the same event, they're all different. So if you were at that event, pal, and you get faster than me, fair enough, you were the better athlete in the day, right? But see if you're at a different event, you can't actually compare.
You've got everything. It's like you will not be a better athlete than me. Maybe on the day, but not overall.
On the day. But I always say that, I'm like, don't compare yourself to, first of all, anybody at the start, right? But second of all, different events you actually can't compare because they're all laid out differently.
Did you do the one with the airport?
Berlin.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. So you did that one.
I got loads of shit off that.
So was it different then?
The distance of the runs was the same. That was the
argument I heard.
Yeah. There was no rock zone. No rock zone. But there was, because like the rock zone was like added on to what the kilometre would be. There was just like no official like you're coming into a rock zone now. So like the kilometre started like up the top of all the events. Okay. So like on your watch, if you ran from there up, round and back, that was a kilometre. You still had to then run to the event, but it wasn't labelled as a rock zone. So then I think people off the back were getting moody because they were like, well, there was no rock zone, so technically you got a 116, not a 18.
There was drastic time.
So everybody's time in Berlin did seem to be faster. Right. But I actually think it was probably down to being out in the fresh air. I didn't need to stop for water at all.
Of course, yeah.
Like it was literally like a straight up, straight down. So there was no bend you had to go around. Like all these things can impact like how much time it takes you to get
mental decision making, fatigue.
Yeah. There's nobody in your way because when you're running up and down, it was so big. There was literally nobody in your way, like at all. Like you know what it's like at Glasgow? Like it was carnage. Like people were in your way all the time. You can't run at your max. You cannot physically run at your max pace when there's bends and stuff like that. Whereas that was straight up, straight down. Like I felt like I could get a really good stride on. Yeah, and the events were literally like, were they laid out in the right order? Yeah, it was like ski. They were until it got to like the wall balls, and the wall balls was in the middle.
That was the issue with Madrid. So you done ski, and then sled.
Oh my god.
Sled pool, and then burpees, walking lunge, farmer carries were.
That's when you really need to be switched on, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh, you've got experience with that as well.
Thanks for bringing that up again. Thought we'd all moved on. Clearly not.
It's happened once. You need to learn from your mistakes.
That was the worst race of my life.
Would you say that was?
Yeah. I was just in the worst place. Mentally. Not actually physically. I was at my fittest.
Physically feeling good.
I was physically fittest I've been.
I think that's why that one hurts so much, because you were probably
mentally, I was
destined to do pretty well.
I didn't actually know that mentally I wasn't there until after it. When I look back and I was like, wow, so much shit was going on outside of.
What was going on?
Like what was going on there? That was, my mind just wasn't in it, and it's so like you can make up all these excuses. I'm not making up excuses. Like what happened, but it's wild how much that stuff that's going on the outside can affect your performance.
And that's something that I had that down as one of the points. Is like sometimes maybe not pulling out the race. I guess everyone's decision is. You need to kind of do what's right for you, but signing up for a Hyrox when other shit's going on in your life, are you ready to put in the work as what's needed? So you made a point earlier, it's like someone's like, I want to get this time. It's like, right, here's what you have to do. Now let's take a step back, what's going on in daily life. Newborn families are like stressful jobs, all these things.
Yeah, you don't actually have really the time to commit to that,
So it's I know it's been probably the hardest lesson that you've had to learn in the previous seasons, but that's a fair point to bring up as something to consider. Yeah,
definitely. And even though at that time, like I was still prioritising myself, I was prioritising other things that actually were really weighing down on my like mental state. I didn't even think they were until I looked back and I was like, wow. What
would some of them be like for someone to recognise in themselves? Like what's going on?
Toxic relationships.
Yeah.
So for me, like major toxic relationship when I was going into Glasgow, who off the back of breaking up with blah blah found out even more shit was going on that I didn't even know about. But you know, it just weighs down you so much you don't even realise, because I wouldn't say I'm a pure people pleaser, but I like to turn up for people. I like to give everything into something. So when I'm with somebody, I like to give them 100%. And if they're not giving me 100% back, I'll always try, and I think I always try and like give them that 20% extra they're not giving me. And that weighs you down so much that you don't even think about. So like
it's emotional energy. It's just like if you eat less calories, you're not going to have fuel for that. That's energy that's getting stolen for.
Yeah, like I was literally racing in Glasgow. This person was watching me, and off the back of it, my clients, like the week after, were like, Shona, he was standing texting girls on his phone, looking at every other girl in that place except from you. Yeah, didn't have any interest in you. Till obviously off the back of that, I found out that he was like
name and shame
being with other people, whatever. Fine, like do what you want to do, but don't fucking turn up to my
it's like
competition and stand there and pretend you're interested when you're not.
Thing is your whole world. It's your.
I just think it's pure cheeky, and now I laugh about it because I'm like, that is so fucking stupid. But at the time, you don't realise how much this other stuff weighs down on you, and not even toxic relationships, like as in like boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend. Like relationships with friends, relationships with family, like your work. Like so many people aren't happy with what they're doing with work now, and they don't want to change it because they're comfortable. But they've got these other goals in life. Like for example, let's just use Hyrox. They want to do a Hyrox, but they're like their bosses making them stay in work till whenever late, so they can't train properly, and they hate that. But they want to do this. I'm like, just try and get out of that.
It's where fitness is again. It's the catalyst because it's like you don't have self-belief, and then the self-belief becomes, I could never do that event. I could never run this time. And then as those things start to happen, more belief gets set. And there's no reason why, like, as you improve your fitness journey, usually your career or your relationship journey tends to follow. And sometimes you have to learn a shit lesson, but that is one of the best lessons you can learn because it's bringing you forward as an individual.
I always say, I'm like, change your can't to how. Like, you can't do it right now, but how can you do it? Like,
I like that. It's a good
one. Like how can you get there? Like if you want to do that, you can do it. Just how can you get there? And it's not always going to be tomorrow or the next week or the next year, but you can get there if you want to. Just break it down. Yeah,
for sure. Right, next one. So we've covered off running, covered off don't kind of set your expectations too high.
We've covered off running, expectations, enjoy yourself, set targets. Was that a separate one?
Yeah, so we touched on that one.
Set targets.
The exercises, don't practice exercises, that's what it was.
Yeah, run over the exercises. What else did I say? Don't overthink it. I think people, because this is like boomed, people are overthinking it. Like people are really overthinking it. I'm like, see, if you look at it, it's really quite simple. Like you're running and you're doing an exercise, it's a low skill exercise. People are like getting into all these like thinking about their heart rate zones and their training and like
meticulous about the
data. Yeah, and I'm like, babe, you've not even like before this, you didn't even know how to run one foot in front of the other. Like just pull it back a bit, just calm down, just keep it simple. Like people try and overcomplicate things. I'm like, keep it simple. Same with food. Like people overcomplicate it. I'm like, just keep it simple. Like eat what you already eat. Just increase the volumes of the carbohydrates or whatever it is we're needing to increase. Like people, like for example, clients will come to me and they're like, so can I get a diet plan? And I'm like, I'm not doing diet plans.
It's got nothing to
I'm not doing diet plans because A, you're not going to follow it. I know that from experience. And B, like, eat what you already eat. Like, I'm not here to tell you you're not eating a mini roll. Do you know what I mean? If you want to eat a mini roll, eat a mini roll. As long as you're staying within the targets that I've set you, eat what you already eat. Just increase. So if you're not eating enough protein, right, for example, and you've already got chicken in your lunch, but you're eating 60 grams, you're increasing that to 120 grams of chicken for your lunch. Do you know what I mean? So that you're reaching these targets and you're eating better and you're still able to enjoy the foods that you eat. People always say, why do you do macros and not meal plans? I'm like, meal plans don't work. They work for maybe a very, very, very small...
Work until they don't. Like that's really
very small percentage of people. But I'm like, I don't even want to like think about a meal plan. I want to eat what I feel like eating on that day.
Aye, kind of on the go. And especially if you're very out and about.
Yeah,
plans is like, it's a horrible situation.
I know.
It's like,
you're just putting more pressure on yourself you don't need to have.
Comes back to that stress thing as well. Did you have nutrition down as any advice that you would give to people? Like what's the common mistakes you see?
Common mistakes for nutrition.
Do you feel like people do try and diet for it?
Common mistake is people are like, oh, carb loads. I'm like, do you know what a carb load is?
Right. Yeah.
And they're out eating pizza the night before. I'm like, how much fat is in that? Your body takes so long to break down fat that you're not actually helping yourself here. Obviously, we need carbohydrates because when your body's in that high heart rate zone, that's what your body's using as fuel. But once it runs out, then your body will move on to another source. And if you've got loads of fat there, it's going to go into that, and it's going to take longer to break down. So your body, to break that down, takes more effort, and it takes longer for that energy, for your body to be able to use that energy. So carb loading, people don't understand it properly, I don't think. And see, for females, there's not really a major benefit in carb loading. Like, not really. For males, yeah. For females, not really. Yeah, you can carb load and maybe increase your carbs a bit before you actually go into the race. But some people are like carb loading like 4 days out. I'm like, you don't need to do that. And it's an excuse to like, you see all these run clubs and they're like going for croissants and pastries after it every single time they do it, or every run they do, and I'm like, you actually don't need to do that.
Making it irrelevant.
Like, it's making it like a, what is it called? Like a, when you do something just for show, what's that called?
Like cliquey. And
yeah, I'm like, you don't need to have a pastry every single time you run. Like, that's not building a healthy relationship.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. It starts to, you don't realise it at the time, but it's building a habit in your mind, and then you find every time you do an endurance thing, it's like, oh, I'm starving, I need food.
Yeah.
And it's what have you programmed your brain to do? It's to reach for pizzas or whatever. Now, I'm not saying that there's no food that's inherently bad, but it's kind of looking at, is that actually fueling your performance? Like pizza the night before would do nothing for me. I would feel so sluggish after that. Horrific. Can I digest it pretty well
Tomato
as it is?
pasta for me.
Is that your go-to?
Yeah, and it's actually weird because I always say don't change what you're already eating. So see if you eat like tomato pasta through the week and you're fine with it, fine. See if you eat rice all through the week and you've never touched tomato sauce in your life and you're thinking the night before, Shona had tomato pasta, so I'm going to have it. You'll shit yourself. I'm not going to lie to you. You're going to get 4 kilometres in and you're going to be holding your arse cheeks together, right? Don't do that. So always just stick to the food you're eating. See if you like have bagels for dinner every night. Have 2 bagels.
So
like,
the morning my Hyrox was bacon and eggs. That's what I have for the last 10 years.
So have it. Like,
I know, and that's what I was having. Sometimes I'll throw in a wee bagel here, but I'm one of these guys, I'm very low carbish. I say low carbish in the majority of calories that I have. And I think that's something you need to realise, and going through this journey will teach you, is sometimes looking at what other people do isn't the right call. Figure out how your own digestion works. The same for any client that I coach.
Yeah, like my full diet's probably carbohydrates. I eat so many of them. So see, when I go into an event, like,
that'll be your forte. That's what you go for.
I already eat loads, but see, like, girls that are coming in especially, and they're like, oh, I'm going to eat like what you're eating, blah, blah. I'm like, you're not actually used to digesting that many carbs. And for females,
You'll be fucked.
They don't hold as much glycogen in the muscles as men do, so you're actually not getting as much benefit off that as what guys are. So just don't overcomplicate it. Like, do not, like, for breakfast every single morning for Hyrox, I have oats, banana, jam every day. It kind of sets me up. It's a mental thing as well. Like, for me, I'm like, right, okay, I've had that, I'm ready to go. I'll eat bagels till a race, or bananas, another banana. Night before, I will have tomato pasta or chicken and rice and pasta. One time, actually, it was before Dublin. I
was going to ask you if you ever messed up your nutrition.
Kind of, not like messed up to the point where I've nearly shit myself in a race, but the night before Dublin we had, so I make this like chicken and smoked sausage pasta quite a lot. Right. I eat it like quite often. But the night before Dublin I was like, oh, I'll make it, it'll be class. Probably wasn't the best decision. I think it was the smoked sausage, I don't know, but my stomach just felt like so sore. Oh, it was horrific, and I like puts you in a bad, like, I meant mentally you're like fat. You're like, oh my god, like, am I going to like make it through this race?
I don't know if I will. Need to jump. Especially when nerves and anxiousness are playing, because
keep things really plain as well. Like, you don't need to have all these fancy sauces, and like if you're abroad and you're going out for dinner because you've booked a hotel and not an Airbnb, rookie mistake. Well, that's what
we had a hotel, but we were fine. We kind of knew we'd be clever where we picked to eat.
Go to Italians.
I think that did we? Yeah, we had an Italian actually.
Yeah, like Italian, easy. Like, they've got pastas there. Avoid pizza if you can, because to be honest, like, I don't care how much you eat pizza. It's just not a great idea.
Nah, I think you've either
have pizza after
not experienced what not having pizza feels like, and you're just stuck in this trap. You're like, I feel fine with it. It's like, no, you don't know what fine feels like.
You feel fine when you're sitting on the couch on a Saturday night, you're watching a movie and you're going to your bed after it. You know
what about the gels and stuff? Because you see the Elite 15 and the kind of the gels. Have you played about with that? Do you think
I've played about with them? Actually, I got a wee kind of like almost not a reality check, but like a wee like, maybe should I take that during when I race, like at the weekend there at the simulation, because so first time I'd ever took one was me and Harry were in Barcelona competing, and he had one on him, and that was always pure, oh, you don't need that, like an hour and a half we're there for. See, if you're an experienced athlete, you actually don't need it. Like your body, if you're used to training for that long, your body shouldn't need that. Obviously it's like a carb source halfway through, so it's going to give you an extra boost, like it is, it's going to help you a wee bit. But if you're used to training for that long, you shouldn't actually need it. Anyway, Harry had it in this race, and he took half of it, and he's like, do you want some? And I was in the pain cave, and I was like, let's just do it, let's see what it does. And it actually, off the back of it, I did like feel like an energy like surge or boost, whatever.
Placebo.
But then I was like, was that a placebo? So then on Berlin, I took one with me. I took it after the sled pull, and then after I'd finished the burpees, I felt an energy boost. But as I said, I'd already looked at my time after the burpees and got a boost from that, so I wasn't really sure like if it was that or not. And then when we done the sim at the weekend there, I took one after sled pull again, and on kilometre 4 I had the worst stitch I've ever had in my whole entire life. And then on the last part I was literally like bent over like in agony with this stitch, and I'm like, was that because of that? So I'm still kind of like, on the fence, should you not? I think it's totally person dependent. See if it creates a placebo and it makes you feel better, fine, go for it. What I would say is if you haven't used them before, maybe don't just test them out in the race.
Do you know what I would say to that? See if your time's 1:30 and you try to get your time 1:29. Like, what is the difference within that? There's so many other variables that you could do within your training, your programming, your lead up to it the night before. A gel's not going to gel's not going to change that.
I also think if you fueled properly, you probably won't.
No, I agree with you there. I'm still very anti. Not like, if it suits you, then go for it. But I still think there's tons of other variables that you can do to get that energy better. Now it's like a plaster over a bullet wound. It's not helping much.
Yeah,
you might stop the bleeding initially, but you've still got a hole in your bloody arm. You know,
started putting like electrolytes in the rock zone as well, so you're probably better just.
See the nutters that are taking full fat Red Bull halfway through that?
Oh my god, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, that was in Madrid, full fat Red Bull.
So they've always got Red Bull because they're obviously a sponsor.
It's like just still, I've seen so many people go up to that. I was like, is this a foreign thing?
That's another thing as well, like caffeine. Like to all my athletes, I'm like, don't touch caffeine before you race.
Would you not? Yeah.
No.
So I do okay with caffeine. Like, so I'm not like 3 coffees deep and like, right, I'm good to go.
Purely because, well, I don't drink caffeine myself, so a lot of people are probably going to listen to this and like, shut up, Shona, right? But from like looking at people performing with caffeine and without caffeine, and just like my knowledge of caffeine, it spikes your like energy levels, and they're going to dip. So if you're racing for 90 minutes, you're going to dip during that, and off the back of that dip, more people will go for another coffee. Well, you can't have that when you're racing. So if
probably why they're going for Red Bull then.
You're going to hit that dip, and obviously the Red Bull's fizzy, so that's going to create a stitch on you straight away.
Oh yeah.
So you're going to get that dip straight away, and also caffeine like creates a kind of dehydration as well, like slight dehydration. So you don't want that when you're racing. So just hydrate with water, and then if you want to have caffeine after it, fine. But I always say to people like, don't have caffeine. And the planks that I've pulled like pre-workout out of in their conditioning sessions, they've been performing so much better. Like so much better without it.
But I don't think I'm cutting caffeine out. Like, I'd rather a bit of a dip than no dip. There's a sore headache that comes with it, but that's because my
I think
caffeine's
like really like
I think that's more than
placebo
anything.
As well. Like all those people like they're drinking 3 coffees in the morning. I'm like,
yeah, I'm that's me. So I finish a coffee and I'm like, oh, I'm sad. See when I'm like, oh, that
you just go
tasted so good. So I make another one.
I don't know how anyone can like the taste of coffee. Oh my god!
So you're similar to Jill. Jill's never had any caffeine in her life. Energy drinks, nothing. She's did 0. She just never touched them, and she's 30 years old. Like, I'm just surprised.
I have had caffeine, but I just don't like.
She doesn't even like tea.
Does she not?
No.
I like tea.
So when she's meeting people for like, I don't know, your typical like business meetings, it's like, oh, you want something for like Costa? And she's like, yeah, I'll have a hot chocolate. And I'm like,
I have a hot chocolate as well.
It's not going well. Right, anything else you want to add into this? Was there anything else?
I think there was something else that I wrote down that I was like,
I've got a couple to cover off that can maybe prompt your idea. So we touched on this a little bit, but I think a lot of people need to chill when they start the race. I think one thing
too hot.
I've heard this come up time and time before, but actually competing, if you've never competed before, your adrenaline carries you so much, but then it burns out very quickly. And I think when you see everyone racing with you, you almost, this comparison factor, you're like, oh, I'm last into the ski station. Most people that are first into that station are usually last round the race. Yeah.
Unless they're really, really good.
Well, yeah, unless
they're burn out,
they're competing heavy. But it's very hard not to compare yourself. You know your pace that you should be running at, and you're looking at you're in the mixed doubles, and you're kind of looking at other couples like, right, I'm going to try and keep up with them, and their pace is faster than yours. Try and chill a bit.
It's hard to pace, especially if you're not used to racing. Like, I would honestly say, like, go out the first 2 kilometres, 3 kilometres, 80%, and then keep build into it. Like, you know what it's like when you get that kind of second wind? Like, even when you're getting closer to the end, push, like, on that last 3, like, push as hard as you can. On that last kilometre, like, balls to the wall. Like, you're going as fast as you can. You've only got 1 station left. Like, it's
like the last one. I
don't care if you collapse over that line. Like, balls to the wall.
Let's go for it. The other thing I was saying was, I wrote down here, obviously benchmarks, we touched on that, but burpee broad jumps and slide drives, I think, have to be the most challenging one. Wall balls, I didn't think would be seen as challenging because most people do it, but the point you made about, like, practice your mobility, like, get into your range of motion is definitely one. But burpee broad jumps and slide drives, I've seen a lot of people skip over in their training.
Yep.
Because it's like, because you can do a couple of burpees and you don't really experience the same pain of doing the 80 metres that you have to do.
Back to back,
And that's something I think gets overlooked. So your whole exercises.
Like, so I wouldn't encourage anyone to do, like, simulate the exercises every week, but definitely put it into your training and see the exercise that you find is your weakness. Always add it into the end of every single session that you do. So, for example, one of my guys, wall balls are just not there. In every session, we're doing 100 wall balls at the end. Like, I'm like, 100 wall balls. I break it into, like, sets of 25, sets of 20, so they're not doing back to back. I'm like, we're doing that every week to drill it into, to get your depth, to get
exposure,
so that you're comfortable, like, throwing that ball. And now he's, like, doing 25 reps, like, without stopping. Before he couldn't even do 10 without his mind being like, I can't do this. Now, and we're going to work it up, so when he gets to Madrid, he's doing 50, he can do 50, he can do 80, like, back to back without stopping. I think it helps, like, when you go into the event and you know that you can do that, like, you're like, right, okay, I know that I've done this before and I can do it. So definitely practice it over and over in training. And I think as well, like, separate your strength training and your running. Like, get strong, get fast at running, and add the condition in as like a separate like component. What I would say is this sport's so new that nobody really knows, like, how to train for it properly. Nobody knows what's the most efficient way. So, like, do what you do. If it works, great. If it doesn't, go and reassess it.
I think the closer to the competition, there's an element to do more simulations, half sims, get your exposure up. But if the longer runway you've got, it makes sense to go, right, if you're crap at wall balls, then let's break it into sets, like you said. Forget the 100, but how many can you do? Right, 5. Right, we're doing the volume that we need to do over a broken down period, and you can see that's how you progress yourself from a strength component. And before you know it, like you said, 25. Because there's a mental part of this that we not really touched on, but you said with your clients, starting it and then going, nah, I can't finish this now. Like,
see, if I've only practiced 10 reps of wall balls in training and I go into it, I'm like, I can only do 10, so I go to 10 and I stop.
Yeah, your beliefs are limited at that point.
If you go in and you practice 30 reps unbroken, you're going in and you know straight away you can do 30. So that straight away, you've already knocked off 10 seconds it takes for you to have dropped the ball every 10 reps, to pick it back up again, to go again. So it's already 10 seconds you dropped off. So, like, just about always push that mindset to, like, the next level.
So the last point I had was around recovery, because I think, I guess we touched on it a wee bit. It's like throwing everything at your training, but recovery in terms of mobility and nutrition, I think, I don't know why, like, it's not seen as part of the process. It's like, I'll recover when I get injured. It's like, I'll mobilise myself when I get injured. It's like, no, it should be the other way about. We do that so we don't get injured. So what's your take on mobility stuff?
Mobility, like, should definitely be in. I think the biggest thing for recovery is actually sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for me, like, see if I have, like, 5 hours sleep one night and I go to train, like, I'm not 100%. Whereas if I go and I have, like, 8 or 9 hours sleep and I go train, like, the difference is massive. So for me, sleep's my biggest form of recovery for my body. Everyone's obviously different. Mobility, I'll do, like, 2 or 3 times a week.
Most people, sleep is such a game changer.
And then obviously fueling your body correctly as well. Like, quite a lot of people don't fuel their body properly, and it definitely is where they get injured or where they've not. Say if they've got, like, a wee niggle or something, they're like, oh, this niggle's not going away. I'm like, you're 50, 60, 70, 100 grams under your protein every day. Like, your body's not actually got the source to repair it properly. So sort it out.
What about the whole recovering or fueling for your training sessions?
What do you mean?
So I think a lot of people, we talk about fueling for the actual workout on the day or the competition on the day.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
They don't
forget
feel
about
outside
their
of that.
training sessions can sometimes be just as intense, because on the lead up to your competition, you probably took a couple of days off the day before, so you're fresh for it.
Yeah.
But you forget you've been in a training camp that needs that fuel and nutrition as well.
Yeah, I think people I think need to train every single day. You don't, you need to rest. You need to have, I'll always say to my clients, you need 1, 2, 3 rest days depending on who they are. Thursday's my rest day, so I'll always have that day as a rest day. If there's another day, so for example, if it gets a Monday and my body isn't feeling 100%, then I'll maybe take it as a rest day as well, and I'll take one of my weight training sessions away from that. So it's just about kind of knowing your own body as well, and knowing when to pull back and when to push.
And you do get to know that. I was just about to ask, what's some signs that you see within yourself or with clients that you're like, right, we need to program a bit of a back off session or a rest day or a mobility day, something that takes the mind and the stress of everything that you're going through away from where we are at? So
for me, if I get up in the morning and I'm done a couple of clients and I'm feeling really lethargic, and I'm not talking about I can't be arsed today. I'm talking about my body just doesn't feel like it's got that drive, and I've fueled it properly and I've had food and I'm still not feeling it, I'll take a rest day, or I'll leave it till a bit later and say, you know what, maybe I need to have more fuel today, we'll see if we can train later. And quite often when I do that, I am able to train later on at night. But if I'm sore and stuff like that, I wouldn't overly train. See if I'd done 20k run the day before, and then the next day my Achilles were maybe feeling a bit tight or my calf was a bit sore, I wouldn't run on that again for a couple of days until it was ready. A lot of signs I've seen clients is when they're, so this is a funny one because some clients will be oh, I'm just really tired today, and I'm quite good at noticing if they just can't be arsed or if they're actually
it's a fine
really
balance
tired.
With being a coach,
and see if they're 3 days back to back and they're I'm honestly just floored, then I'll push their calories up. And I'm right, okay, let's see how you feel in a couple of days. Let's get a training session in, 80%, let's pull it back. And then a couple of days they're I feel better. I'm okay, you didn't have enough fuel. So let's, now you do. So we've changed it. Puppy, you hear food and you come up.
Where's my nutrition? Where's my recovery?
But yeah, everyone's different, and everyone, for mobility, some days you wake up and you're really sore. So see you in a 10-15 minutes mobility, and you feel so much better, and you're going to get a lot more out of your session. Because
how stiff do you feel when you wake up in the morning?
Yeah.
Like you said, your Achilles are on fire, but a couple of 3-second holds on your calf raises, top and bottom, you're I'm moving better already.
That's how people actually get injured, especially with running, because they notice these niggles and they don't pay attention to it. So many times I hear people, my calf's sore,
it's beast mode,
and they're just putting freeze roll over it. I'm that's not great. Or as I said, their Achilles are sore, or they've their ankle up here. What's that bit called?
When you're
I have no idea, but that bit there, can't remember what it's called, but that bit there can get sore from running. And they just run on it again. I'll be fine. I'm it's not fine. Or their calves are so tight, and I'm just rest. Just rest.
It's an important part of this. It's
I know you need to train, but you also, if you hurt yourself, you're not going to be able to train for the next 2 days.
It's a weird thing. It doesn't make sense when you look at it on paper. It's why would doing less reps, doing less volume, resting improve my body? And it's because there's a strength curve and there's a progression overload that you can handle, but that rest part is where you grow. And I think that's
give it time to repair. It's remember you played video games when you were younger, and the wee health thing would go down and down and down and down and down, and then you'd have to hide for a bit so that your health would build back up. So it's just that. It's look back at these video games, they were actually teaching you something you didn't even know. You'd hide behind something and your health would build back up, and yes, I can go out again, and you go, somebody would shoot you, you'd have to go back because you're injured. Do you know what I mean?
It's the same. It works the same.
You need to take that time back to push forward.
Yeah. Weird sign though, one of the signs, well, a couple of things here. One sign that you're overtraining is your sleep's rubbish. Because if you're what is it? Is it sleep paralysis or insomnia? There's one, I can't remember which one paralysis. It is. But
oh my god, I've get that. It's so bad.
Oh really? Do you? There you go. It might be a sign that this.
I actually, upfront and honest, don't sleep enough. No. So I always up at 4:30 in the morning, and I probably go to sleep at 10, 11.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Right. So I'll be upfront and say I don't sleep enough, and I know that, and because when I do actually get enough sleep, and say I don't have a 4:30 start, say I don't have a 6 o'clock start, and I have a 4:30, say I get to sleep till 6 or 7, my performance that day is unreal. But see, by the time I've done everything during my day and got in, had dinner, trained, whatever, blah, 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 means I don't get to sleep till that time, and it's definitely my fault. Like, I could prioritise it better and get to sleep earlier. But for me, like, sleep is one thing that I could definitely improve on.
It's one thing that we play with a wee bit more. But see, if that was a training day, it's weird how you're like, I'll reduce my volume. But with sleep, it's like, But
then see, like, the night before a competition, I'm like, nobody talk to me after 8 o'clock at night.
I need this sleep. I need this sleep. So is there anything else
even as trainers, even as like personal trainers, and people think, oh, you're like 100% all the time. Like, there's things that we need to improve on as well. There's always things that, like, some days I'll underfeel for my training sessions. You don't know till you do the training session. You're like, fuck, I feel shy.
No one's perfect. I think
nobody's perfect, and it's like, So I think it's important for clients to see that as well. Like, we all have things that we need to improve on. So yeah.
You know what's weird about this whole conversation? I'm not throwing shade, but a lot of people look to the Elite 15 for advice. And I'm not saying they won't give good advice, but they try and replicate what they do. And it isn't the healthy approach, because they're looking to be the top athlete in the space. And to the points that you raised as well, it's like, don't copy me, because there is an aspiration of you wanting to be the best. And there's a fine line where these sacrifices and what you have to do in nutrition, what you have to do training, becomes over that line of, here, this isn't the best way to do this if you're trying to be the best version of yourself. And that's a hard thing to...
I always use stepping stones, because I'm like, if I'm here and you're here right now competing, and I'm like, you can't copy me on this level because this is this level. You can copy people at your level, and I can give you the increments you're going to get to copy me at this level. But until then, we need to just keep progressing from where you're at to get up to that level. But you can't actually, like, if I would say to one of my clients that are like, I've got clients that are at the same level as me, but see if there's clients where they're not, and I'm like, this is like a take of what I'm doing, but the volume's a lot less. Like, so you're copying me in a level, but you're not like 100% copying exactly what I'm doing back to back every single day, copying all my training sessions, copying all my runs. Like, no.
Here's a question for you. Do you think Hyrox is healthy?
Yeah.
Do you think where you're at just now in Hyrox to where you need to get to where your aspirations are, do you think what you have to do training wise is healthy?
Yeah.
You do?
I do think it's healthy. I think it's healthy with the right approach. People that aren't educated on it properly, or are doing it for the wrong reasons, it's not healthy.
I suppose it comes back to that old wanky sense, like, what is healthy? But
exactly.
It's
everyone's different, and everyone's level of health or what should be healthy is different. But to me, healthy is looking good, moving good, feeling good. So if I'm moving well and I'm looking good and I'm feeling good, then I'm healthy.
We're taking care of all these things. This is why we highlighted all these points. This is the healthiest way, or the best way to approach it.
And you know, it's such a good sport, because you've got, even though it's not pure strength, there's still a strength element to it. Your cardiovascular fitness, which is obviously healthy for your heart, your lungs, and you're around people who have got like aspirations to be better and do better. So mentally as well, like, that's a good environment to be in. So I think in terms of that, it's healthy. Like, the community that it builds and the way that it's pushing you to actually live a healthier lifestyle. And do you know the amount of people that now that I've noticed socially can go out at the weekend without drinking because they've got this sport is wild, because they don't actually, like, they're now prioritising their health with the sport. So I do think it's healthy. And there's so many, like, my friends that have done the sport, and like people that I know that can go out and socialise with their friends and without actually drinking and damaging their body, because they've got this thing that's more important to them now.
Oh, there's a better like reward with it.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't always be about the reward, but I think this is the thing that people overlooked with the bodybuilding world. It's like, the gym's not for me because I don't want to be a bodybuilder. And it's like, that's not what the gym's about. And then this is another way where we can foster and bring other people into the world of fitness through this sport, which is cool.
I think it can be unhealthy in terms of if you are overtraining and under feeling. But there's so many, like, because the sport has been around now for 5-6 years, I think there's so many, like, more recognition about how to do that properly, and like so many people are eating more, like, because for a while there was like people wanted to eat as like little as they could, but now like even clients come on board with me, they're like, oh, I know that my calories are going to be high, but I'm really excited about it. And I'm like, great, because give it 2 years ago, people were like, oh, so I've been eating 1,400 calories, I don't want to go above that. And I'm like, no.
Because there's an emphasis put on time and performance. So it's like, oh, I got 120 for my time, and I tried to diet before it, and I actually got my time worse. I'm more interested in the performance being the main driver for my success.
I think that feelings are such a good word, because people are now coming away from that diet mentality and more feeling for performance. So even like if you're going to race in the Hyrox or do a marathon, feeling for performance is weight training in the gym as well. Like it's just a better way to go into things with people instead of diet. Like even if you are like increasing your calories, stop calling it a diet. Like call it fuel. Like you're fueling yourself.
Always the comparison I've said in the show a couple of times is like your body's the car analogy, and it's like you can't drive to a destination with less fuel, less mileage than where you need to go.
Even if you're like cutting body fat, you're still fueling your body for what that's meant to be doing. It
takes the emphasis off calories is all about fat loss and fat gain. I think that's really the most important message. That's good. Is there anything else you would add from a tip perspective?
I had another one. I just honestly, like, what was it? Can't remember.
If it comes to mind, you can
I'll try it in.
So I wanted to kind of wrap up the back half of this episode just with, I was thinking, so every time I've got a guest episode on now, I do like a wee game like overrated, underrated, all this sort of stuff. And I was thinking beforehand, I was like, how do I make this like Hyrox thing? So there's two parts of this, and I think I know the answer to the first one. We've already kind of scratched the surface. But one was like an idea that came to mind was workout confessions. And it was like, what's been the most embarrassing or awkward moments during your training or an actual Hyrox event? So I think we know the Hyrox event where what you would put up here, but does anything come to mind training wise?
Embarrassing moment for me training?
Doesn't it? Aye, for you, like this came up. Or awkward?
You
had a few belters last time.
I'm pure bad at thinking on the spot. Apart from like me actually training myself, awkward. Honestly, don't know.
If nothing comes to mind,
so bad at
is it going to just is this part in your brain that's like messing up the stations? That's probably scarred you for life.
That's horrific. And I actually like partly peed myself in Glasgow as well. Nobody talks about this. No one actually talks about this. Like how many girls? I don't know when they hear this back, they're going to be like, yes, like actually like see yourself a wee bit through like this, because every time I came from the rock zone into from the running track into the rock zone, because of change of pace, I don't know why, I just like peed myself a wee bit. So then when I was going into like sled push and stuff, I was mortified. I was like, they're going to see I pee myself. Didn't pure pee myself, right? But and I was like thinking about that as well, and I was like, oh my god, that's probably the most embarrassing thing that's happened. Like I actually can't think. I know there's been times when I've been training that's probably been horrific, but I can't actually think of them right now.
I think that's a pretty good answer.
People are waiting for the tea and I'm
I think that's a pretty good answer. I've got a couple more here anyway. Again, you might not be best at thinking on the spot, but what's an unpopular opinion that you have? What comes to mind when I say that?
An unpopular opinion?
Of anything. It doesn't need to be Hyrox related, but it could be.
Opinion? That milky tea isn't good.
Milky tea?
Isn't good, yeah.
Isn't good?
Yeah. People hate it. I love it.
Oh, you think so your opinion of that is that milky tea is the best?
Unpopular opinion as well, Crocs. I hate them.
Shouldn't it be a thing?
No, they should not be a thing.
You should start answering that as your story. Like when people ask what's the best running shoes, just say Crocs. I don't know, like there's a weird thing, maybe it's once you turn 30 and you get by that age, it's like I used to hate them, and it's like I can see the validity in them being very practical.
No, I just don't get them. And you know what, I've like quite not like pure sensory, like, but some things like really irritate me. See like the wee balls on the bottom of them, that would really irritate me.
Right.
It's more my mouth that's quite sensory, but like the wee things would really get onto me.
That's a good gift for somebody can get you as a pair of Crocs.
Nobody
with Mr. Bean on them and all that.
Mr. Bean, yeah.
Right, last one, which I think this is quite a cool one to ask you. Your fantasy Hyrox dream team partner. So if you had to do, and this can be someone that's in Hyrox just now, but what I actually say is there anyone out within the world of sport that you're like, I'd love them to be my Hyrox partner to do a Hyrox with?
Oh, Zac Efron is like run round with his top off for 60 minutes.
Fancy thing. Really, Zac Efron now? Do you know how he looks now?
Yeah.
After all the surgery and all that shit that's happened. Really? I can understand like Hyrox.
Doesn't look as good as honestly the High School Musical 2 like peak. But yeah. Or do you know what other film he was in that he came out? What was it called? 17 again. He comes out the car and he's got the glasses on. And I'm like, yes.
That's your dream.
Who else?
What about like sports athletes? Is there anyone that in the sporting world you're like, they're a badass, I'd love to compete with him?
Jessica Ennis, just because I absolutely love her. Apart from that, try to think. Jessica Ennis, definitely. I can try to think of people who's actually in Hyrox now as well. Maybe even just one of the Elite 15 as a doubles, just to kind of like see how mad that would be. Yeah.
Who do you follow in the Hyrox space? Like, who's you look at as like, not look up to, but you're like, oh, I really like what they're doing. Like,
so Megan Jacoby's like a big like influence on the Hyrox space. I just think she's so good at what she does. She like, her training's just so good. She's just like a pure looks like a girl's girl. Like, she's like,
child.
Do you know what I mean? She's like a pretty girl in sport as well. Do you know what I mean? You don't really get that. Like, do you know what I mean by that? Like, you don't really get like.
You try to say they're all ugly.
No, what's the right word for that? Like, she's just like,
like she's like
glam. Like, she's quite glam and stuff, and like I think that's really nice to see as well. But she just loves what she does, and you can see she's passionate about it, and I think that's so important in sport. And she likes helping other people as well. Like, she's always giving out tips and advice and stuff like that, and she's not trying to like gatekeep anything. In terms of the guys as well, like on the other side, I follow most of them.
Yeah.
And you obviously get tips and like tricks and stuff from different people. I think maybe bits from everybody. There's nobody that I'm like pure focused on, like, oh, I want to be you. Like,
it's like, I want to beat you.
Yeah. I actually never look at somebody and I'm like, I want to be you. Because I want to be myself, and I want to like be like the best person myself. And obviously it's good to look up to people and stuff like that, but I'm always just like, right, okay, you've got this, I want that.
So it's a very good thing to bring up, because it's the whole comparison thief of joy, but having a comparison can still drive you forward, and it's a real fine line with it. And this is the hardest thing in competitions, because you're envisioning the first, the second, the podium, whatever it is, and it's hard to not want that, but also go, right, you know what? I need to be the best version of me. So what was my time last time? What was my performance like? And try and beat that, because that's the true win. No one does it like, yes, okay, winning the Elite 15 race, you are the fastest person in the world. That is a status that you want to have. But see, at the end of the day, see the real winners, everyone who finishes that race to start with. Yeah. And then the next layer of winners is...
Well, I don't agree with that, because I'm like, if you lost, you lost.
Losers and all that. But if you beat your time last time, give yourself more credit. Like, come on,
more people do need to do that. Because some people are taking like 10, 15, 20 minutes off their time. Insane. They're still going away crying. Yeah. I'm like, you're literally like so much better than what you were last time. And also, like, these people that are winning, they're sponsored athletes for a start, right? So they don't have to go to work every day. They're getting paid to train. Yeah. Like, they're literally getting paid to train. So they've got all the time in the world. And no people say, oh, PTs have got all the time in the world. They don't, but they've got more time than what somebody with a office job or whatever would, because for a start off, we're in the gym. So straight away,
convince ourselves we've got a proper job.
We don't have that 15, 20 minute drive to the gym, 15 minute, 20 drive back home. We're already there. So see if we've only got 30 minutes spare in our day, we're already there. We have that 30 minutes extra that you don't. So we are an advantage being a PT, and you're in a space where you're like constantly in the staff and people are talking about it constantly around you. You're always talking about sport with other people, so you're at that advantage of always getting new information thrown at you straight away.
Environment's everything.
Yeah, whereas people that aren't in that environment are getting things like second hand, or they're getting things later on. So if you are a PT in this industry, you are ahead of people who aren't, and if you are a sponsored athlete, you're ahead as well, because you've got more time. You're getting paid to do this. So obviously it's like football players, like their full life is dedicated to this, so obviously they're going to be like the best.
Can't compare the Sunday League to...
They've got the time for recovery, and they've got the time for like sleeping till 8 o'clock every morning,
getting everything dialed, meals getting prepped for them. Like,
they're getting their meals sent to them. Like,
and that's not taking away that these aren't...
Not taking away they're working hard, because they're working fucking hard, but what I'm saying is they've got more time to prioritise recovery, which what we've said is like a main thing that people don't actually look at.
Hunter's vlogs and that, and I'm like, what an environment he's got in Malibu.
He actually lives up in like
I know, he's like at the hills, he's got everything. I was like, no, that's dialed in performance right there.
Yeah, like barbecue at the back. Sure.
That is so cool, isn't it? So
cool. But yeah, like if you I've got all these other things going on. Say you've got kids, you've got like a 9 to 5 job. Like, give yourself a bit
Just
of like
life.
credit.
Yeah.
Like you're probably the only person in your office for a start that's actually doing this. So congratulations. And be like, if you're progressing from what you were last time, then you're going to get better. And ultimately, these people that are at the top, if you look back years and years ago, they might have been in the same
Doing
position you
something.
were, and they're just working towards. And as I said earlier, like, if you're not making enough time for these things and you want to, then look at the environments that you're in and look how you can change them. Like, I've had a lot of clients that have been like in office jobs, whatever, and they come into sport and they've loved it so much that they want to make that more of their life. So they've quit their job and they're doing PT courses now, and they're coming into this space because they love it so much, and that's great. Because I'm like, okay, now you really have time to do exactly what you love and like enjoy coming to work, and you don't have the every time I see you, I'm not getting I've got this report done, can't be arsed.
It's like a knock-on effect like that. Just
I'm like, change your environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things you said on that, which is another important thing just to highlight, is the whole comparing, like you've beat your time by 10 minutes and you're still giving yourself shit for it. Most people only give themselves like 12 weeks in between two Hyrox events.
Yeah.
And it's like, think of what you've just done in a short space of time. Another thing is, if you are in this world of Hyrox or working out, you're literally in the top 5%, maybe even 1% of the world, because a majority of our world, like you said, you are the only person in the office that's doing something like that. Someone's always doing something weird in the office. You're that person now, and it's a cool thing to be a part of.
And it's always hard. Like, see, coming from a gym environment, and I'm hearing these stories, I'm like, why are they slagging you for being healthy?
Yeah.
But then so many people come in, they're like, oh, I'm getting pure slagged at work because I took meal prep in with me.
Oh, that is insane, I know.
I'm like, what?
But this is it. It's the whole same mentality. If you don't drink,
or like, yeah, so
it's like, oh,
one of the girls,
you're the weirdo for not drinking.
all the people in the office go to the pub after on like a Wednesday or something. She's like, oh, I'm going to class tonight. They were all pure laughing at her and all that, and I'm like, get the fuck out of there.
They cut those people out. But that's there's a shift. That's why run clubs are getting so popular, because it's creating something socialising to do. And that's where things like what you guys do over at Harry's place and just this whole thing, it's a cool thing to be a part of.
People are nervous to come into that environment as well, because they think that everyone's like elite athletes because they're not used to that environment. And I'm like, they're actually not. Like, everyone that's coming in here has been in the same position as you.
Oh, for sure.
And they actually want you to come in here because they want you to realise like what you're missing almost.
More people the better.
But yeah, I think like more like workplaces that aren't involved in sport need like more education around
I know. So it's very toxic.
Yeah.
Very, very toxic.
And it's shocking the amount of people that don't actually like look after their health or encourage other people to be unhealthy just to make themselves feel better.
It's always an insecurity. I put that in my stories this morning.
Yeah.
I was talking about the alcohol stuff. I was like, it's funny how you're always the weirdo if you choose not to drink at something. But just know that's usually an insecurity coming from someone else.
So that's becoming more accepted now. Like, I remember...
It's because of these things, though.
So I remember when I was at school and I was like 16, 17, 15, all my friends were going out drinking in the streets and stuff like that, and I was always like, no, I've got the track tonight. And I would always get slagged for it. Like, every time I'd be like, oh, fuck's sake, like, just come out. No, because I'm going to the track. And I didn't actually start drinking until like I was just about to be 18, or like not long after I turned 17, I can't remember. But now, and even like a couple of years ago, like going out and being like, oh, I'm not drinking tonight, I've got a race tomorrow. People are like, oh, what the hell, and like just turn away from you and talk to somebody else. But now if you're like, oh, I'm not drinking, oh cool, what have you got on?
It's genuine interest.
Yeah.
There's
so
more to
now
life.
I'm like, there's been a massive like shift in people actually understanding that your health should be a priority.
It's important.
And you don't have to like have alcohol, drugs, etc. to like let you have a good time and push forward in life. Like,
it's a fantastic point. It's a great thing. It's a highlight that there is some hope for humanity in the end.
Yeah.
So although we are getting unhealthier as a majority, I think things like this start to shift it a little bit for sure.
And it's mad the people that were like the leaders at school with like that were always out drinking and like slagging you for not being
insecurities now, and
now they're the ones looking at you being
issues.
like, hi gal, how are you? You're doing so well. Can I come train with you?
You hold grudges?
I don't hold grudges at all, but I'm also like, get up you.
yeah, it's a bit of a like
I'll be
karma,
yeah,
like
totally
karma's
come and
game.
train with me, but at the same time, like, I actually feel like really good. I'm like, this is what happens when you actually just do what you want to do. I always say that to like younger people. I'm like, do what you want to do, wear what you want to wear, be who you want to be. Like, and don't worry about what anyone else is doing, because later on in life, especially when you get away from school, college, like you're going to start like being the right person. Yeah.
And that's hard to tell someone in the work environment, tell someone in school when everyone around you is doing something.
Yeah,
you want to be a part of the crowd.
Hard to be that like outsider.
I think that's also a test. We said this last time, that how resilient you can be, especially yourself with your upbringing and all that sort of stuff. So look, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Quick 2 hours, eh?
Is it 2 hours?
It's been 2 hours.
Oh my God.
Like there. So there you have it. Hopefully you've got some tips for going into this next season and smashing it.
Sorry, I couldn't think on the spot. There's definitely other things about those
you can
questions.
Message me afterwards and let us know.
I'm like, wow.
I'll edit it in or
I
something.
found that message from the last time, that guy that messaged me like, can I flick your Mcbean or whatever it was.
Is he back?
He's not back, no. He's firmly blocked.
Oh, good. Right. There's always got to be the weirdos out there, I would imagine. And I'd imagine that's something that still happens then, because you're still growing on Instagram.
There's still weirdos.
Yeah.
I got a sugar daddy the other day. He was like, literally 2 days ago maybe. He was pure, hey, I send girls gift cards for like, I don't know, whatever you want. And I was like, class. I was like, if you want to send gift cards my way, on you go. And he's like, oh, it's a small, I don't know who this guy was, but he must know me. Like, because he was like, oh, I don't think you'll be into this. And I was like, I just sent back a question mark. And he was like, oh, and only exchange them for pictures. I was like, see ya. And he was like, I knew it. And then he sent like laughing faces. It's annoying me. So I'm like, who is that?
Is it always like private accounts, like hidden profiles?
No, some people it's just like straight. Like, I don't know if you heard my voice on the other day. The guy's pure giddy up, Shona. And his Irish accent.
Is that stuff not like,
doesn't
faze me. Scary or anything like that? Because you're obviously you out and about, being recognised more, and all, like, I don't know if that happens a lot just now, but as you start to grow
wild. Like
at Hyrox, I would imagine that being a thing.
Yeah, it's not scary for me, like messages and stuff like that. I just think it's funny. Like, I'm just like, okay, clearly got nothing better to do with your time. Like, it's a laugh, and it's a laugh for my pals as well, because I obviously share it around the group chats.
But guys are listening, even if somehow they end up listening to this because they are a big fan of yours.
Yeah,
like, you think that's going to be a private conversation?
You're wrong. That guy that the other day that was like, giddy up, Shona, and I put it in my story. You've literally met. He's like, please set it down. He's like 65k followers. Like, take that down. And I was like, no. I was like, send me 50 and I'll take it down.
Yeah, Camera's a bitch. You can't. There needs to be consequences to your actions.
But yeah, and like getting recognised and stuff. Like, I was like for food the other day with Bovine, and the waitress like sat us down, and then she ran away. And then another waitress came out. She was like, are you the Hyrox girl? And I was like, yeah, I think so, why? And she was pure, oh, that waitress just came in and like told the full kitchen, like, you're in here. And I was like, that's embarrassing.
You're like, get me out of here.
It's nice as well, but I'm also just not used to that. It's happened a few times in restaurants, and I'm just like, okay.
I think this is
it's weird because, like,
I think people think you're you get the influencer status, but you're an actual coach, you're a real, like, you're such a down-to-earth person.
Like, fair enough, like, an influencer, yes, because I'm influencing people to do this sport and, like, do well, and everyone who does that's an influencer. But to me, like, getting recognised and stuff is cool, but I'm also, like, I'm actually just, like, a normal person. Like, I don't expect any separate treatment. I don't expect any, like, all these brands and stuff that come to me. I'm like, I don't expect that. Like, I don't need that to enjoy what I do. Like, see if it was all taken away tomorrow, like, all my followers got lost, like, I would still do exactly what I'm doing.
Because you have a true passion and purpose.
Someone said that to me. They're like, you actually stand out because you're just the same person as what you were before all this happened to you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, literally does nothing extra for me other than provide me with a bigger, like, pool of people, which is obviously better for me and it's an advantage. But the whole, like, being placed and people like, oh, Shona, you're or SMK. I'm like, hi.
SMK still, I like that. But look, thank you very much for coming on again. We hope you enjoyed that episode. I'll put a link to all your stuff below. Yeah. Are you doing anything training wise, taking people on? Is this Cooper telling you there's time's up? He's like, let me
time's up, dog. At the moment, just online, but that's reaching capacity. Like,
cool. Well, if you made it this far, check the show notes because I'll leave a link to that. And thanks again for coming on.